Envision working day and night for a dead-end job, only to pass away from stress, but being given another opportunity at life as an immortal witch, you seek to live a quiet life. As you hunt slimes, sleep, and eat every day, 300 years fly by, and you realize you've maxed out your stats and have become the strongest being to ever live, and this draws in unwanted visitors. The anime opens with our MC Aizawa Azusa, a 27-year-old corporate slave working her life away without experiencing any romantic relationships. But suddenly one day Azusa collapsed due to overworking. Appearing before a goddess as a yellow orb, the goddess feels bad for Azusa, offering Azusa a carefree life with an immortal body. Reminding Azusa that mana will be used in her new world, the goddess sends Azusa off into the highlands, starting her off with a 17-year-old body. Having been dropped into a new world, Azusa is amazed she can read this world's language, spotting a home that is vacant and free to live in. Admiring her new body, Azusa says she looks like a witch, exploring the home only to spot a field and a village nearby. Having been given a weapon and some coins, Azusa heads out, only to run into a slime. Unsheathing her sword, Azusa slashes at the slime, but the creature simply evades, retaliating with an attack but does no damage to Azusa. Going all out, Azusa slays the slime, only to notice a gem drop from it. Heading to the nearby village, Azusa learns the village is named Flata, instructed to visit the nearby Adventurers Guild for work. Greeting the receptionist, Azusa learns that Flata village is quite peaceful, with only slimes roaming the area. The receptionist tells Azusa that the gems she acquired are magical stones and can be exchanged for money, but first the receptionist checks Azusa's stats. Azusa confirms that she has the witch class with a level of 1, but the receptionist points out how lucky it is to have immortality at such a low level. Just like that, Azusa's life consists of her taking it easy, starting each day by sleeping in only to tend to her fields. When she needs exercise, she slays slimes, aiming for 25 every day, and visits the forest occasionally to acquire the exact herbs she needs, thanks to her witch skill, only to sell them to the nearby village. After indulging in the laid-back life for 300 years, Azusa is seen tapping the slimes, curious as to how strong she's grown over time. Heading into town, Azusa is well known by everyone, having frequently treated patients with her medicine and even fighting off a plague that struck the town. Grateful to be given so much attention, Azusa exchanges her magical stones, only to be asked by the receptionist Natalie how strong she is. Having not checked in 300 years, Azusa chooses to evaluate her stats, shocking Natalie when she sees Azusa is level 99. Refusing to believe she's grown so strong by defeating mere slimes, Natalie points out Azusa has an ability that boosts her experience points earned, explaining how Azusa acquired over 10 million points over time. This is equivalent to 4,380 dragons slayed, meaning Azusa must be the strongest in the world. But Azusa states she doesn't want this attention ruining her peaceful life. Azusa asks Natalie to promise not to leak her status to anyone, heading to a nearby waterfall, only to freeze the entire location with a single ice spell. Forced to accept her insane growth, Azusa uses ice and fire magic to freeze and thaw meals, but one day suddenly gets a knock at the door. Spotting 4 adventurers outside, Azusa is petrified to hear them call her the level 99 witch, failing to come up with an excuse to convince them otherwise. With no other choice, Azusa takes the 4 all at once, drawing a circle and asking them to leave quietly once they lose. Seeing the enemy casting a wind spell, Azusa attempts to mimic the spell, but accidentally unleashes a devastating tornado that ends their duel. Rushing to the guild, Azusa asks if Natalie had leaked her true level, learning that Ernst the Adventurer was the one who eavesdropped and leaked their earlier conversation. With word of Azusa's level spreading, Azusa is visited by the most powerful dragon of Nanterre, Laika, who challenges Azusa to a duel. When Azusa refuses, Laika threatens to rampage and destroy everything, forcing Azusa to accept. With Azusa donning her witch clothing, She takes flight to match Laika's wings, prompting Laika to unleash a fiery breath, only to be cancelled out by Azusa's ice magic. Impressed, Laika dashes forward clawing at Azusa, but upon seeing Laika trying to fire off another breath, Azusa simply freezes Laika's mouth. Falling out of the sky, Laika runs around mindlessly, accidentally destroying Azusa's house, forcing Azusa to knock Laika down with a single punch. Glaring at Laika, Azusa orders Laika to repair her house, something Laika agrees to do, asking for permission to retrieve funds from where they live. With Azusa warning Laika to not lie to her, Laika hurriedly flies off, leaving Azusa to head into town, seeing as her house is destroyed. As the town praises Azusa for fending off a dragon, Azusa chooses to stay at the Flata village office, thankful to be given the guest house. Azusa realizes the girl serving her was a young girl she saved in the past, choosing to accept the town's kindness and head to the Keen Eagle restaurant. Warmly greeted by the townsfolk, Azusa orders her usual omelette and beef stew, enjoying the delectable meal as the town celebrates Azusa the Great Witch of the Highlands. Waking up the next day, Azusa receives a visitor, asking who the redhead before her is, only to be stunned realizing Laika has changed into her human form. With Azusa confirming that Laika has indeed repaid her debt, Laika shyly asks to be Azusa's pupil, horrifying Azusa as she only got so strong fighting lowly slimes. Laika states she was naive to claim herself as the strongest, wishing to work diligently like Azusa and grow stronger. Azusa realizes that Laika could take over the cooking and cleaning, immediately taking Laika as her pupil, learning that Laika was born 300 years ago as well. Returning to her destroyed home, Azusa notes how they should expand to fit more people, prompting Laika to take over as she carries over some resources, immediately working on the overall foundation and structure of their new house. As it gets dark, Laika says she'll work all night and finish in the morning, but Azusa stops Laika, demanding Laika to not overexert herself. Touched by Azusa's words, Laika is grateful to her master, both clocking out for the day, only to return in the coming days to finish up. With Azusa amazed by Laika's hard work, they rush into town to celebrate, all whilst Azusa thinks about her new life with her first pupil. With Azusa taking Laika with her to slay slimes, Laika is amazed at Azusa's speed when dispatching slimes, but is disappointed to hear Azusa only takes down slimes to train. Azusa scolds Laika for wanting to fight stronger enemies in order to boast about it, reminding Laika to take things one step at a time. But as the two collect the magical stones, a mysterious girl glares at Azusa from the forest. As the two head home, Laika offers to cook Azusa a meal, shocking Azusa seeing the plus-size dishes. As the two dig in, Azusa says they'll rotate chores, asking Laika if she has any questions for her, intrigued to hear Laika fears for the nearby village. Laika says she fears an evil mage or other monsters attacking the village will be more likely, especially since Azusa's mighty status will draw in others across the world, making the village one of Azusa's weak points. Laika suggests that they create their own magic, both heading to a cliff only for Laika to draw up a magic circle for Azusa to use. Positioning herself in the middle of the magic circle, Azusa infuses the circle with her mana, casting a powerful barrier over the nearby village. In an instant, Azusa's spell catches a thief, shocking the townsfolk as they celebrate another heroic feat by Azusa. Azusa also takes the chance to introduce Laika the dragon to the villagers, all welcoming Laika wholeheartedly. As we cut to several days later, where Laika has perfectly picked up Azusa's carefree habits. Sadly, Azusa hears a knock at the door, spotting a small girl claiming Azusa to be her mother. Revealing her name to be Falfa, Falfa mentions that her younger sister had done her research into Azusa, but Laika is more fixated on Azusa's love life. Hearing Falfa mention her sister is hunting Azusa down, Laika invites Falfa in, serving her some cookies only to ask for the name of Falfa's sister. Revealed to be Shalsha, Falfa adds that Shalsha has a grudge against Azusa since Azusa's been slaying her kind. Azusa asks if Falfa is aware of what Shalsha may attack with. Surprised to hear Shalsha is learning Smite evil magic, magic that gets stronger the more specific the target. Laika says it takes decades to master such a spell, confirming that Falfa and Shalsha are both 50 years old, but suddenly Falfa states that Shalsha has appeared. Rushing outside, Azusa makes note of Shalsha's potent aura. Hearing Shalsha declares she'll avenge her own death. Azusa asks to know how she infuriated Shalsha. Shocked to hear that Falfa and Shalsha are made from the souls of the slimes Azusa hunts, making the girls slime spirits. Seeing as Shalsha is dead set on fighting Azusa, Laika suggests Azusa blast the girl away with a tornado, but as Azusa casts her wind magic, Shalsha easily disperses the spell. With everyone shocked, Shalsha reveals her smite evil target is specifically the Witch of the Highlands, making Shalsha the perfect counter to Azusa. Getting serious, Azusa combines a red and blue flame, blasting Shalsha with a newly created black flame, but Azusa's magic bounces off Shalsha's body. Falfa mentions how Shalsha has been saving up her mana to ensure she takes out Azusa, but her magic will run out in an hour. But seeing as Shalsha is only after her, Azusa chooses to flee for her life. Sadly, Shalsha negates Azusa's flight magic, preparing a lethal spell all whilst the others watch. With Azusa accepting her demise, Laika transforms, intercepting Shalsha's attack, declaring that no one will touch her master. As both Shalsha and Laika prepare to battle, Laika rushes Shalsha with her claws, surprised to see Shalsha suddenly faint when Laika nudges her. Having brought Shalsha back to her home, Shalsha awakens, disappointed having to rely on her enemy's kindness. Leaping out of bed, Shalsha prepares to strike Azusa down, but realizes she has run out of mana, cursing herself for being so weak. Azusa points out that at least Shalsha will have a reason to live now that Azusa is still alive, confusing Shalsha as to why Azusa would help them. But Falfa finally speaks up. Falfa asks Shalsha to not be so harsh on Azusa, especially since it's human nature to slay slimes, asking Shalsha instead to leave behind her resentment and live her life. Seeing Shalsh finally give up on her revenge schemes, Azusa asks if the girls would like to live with them, ordering Shalsha to first call her mother as well. Wanting to celebrate their new family members, the gang head out to purchase items, learning along the way that evil slimes exist in the world. The sisters utter that the slimes of Nanterre are dark-colored, whereas the slimes in the Highland are pale, mentioning how evil slimes are light in color. The girls also add that all slimes have a weak point, stabbing at a slime hole only to instantly slay it. Finally heading through town, Azusa runs some errands while showing the sisters around, stopping only to quiz the girls on some landmarks. Seeing Falfa easily remembering the landmarks, Laika asks how Shalsha is doing. Hearing Shalsha point out the old road that led to the Old Kingdom. Heading home, the gang feast on Laika's plus-sized meals, all praising Laika for the delicious meal. Seeing the sisters abstain from eating their celery, Azusa offers to give them cake later, convincing them otherwise. Glancing at Laika, Azusa calls out Laika for skipping over her celery as well, all ending the night with some chiffon cake. With the sisters given a room to share, Laika suggests that they recruit an elf or demon next, but first Azusa chooses to value their family of four as is. With several nights passing, Azusa watches as the sisters indulge in history books, shocked to see the girls studying elven history. Hearing a knock at the door, Azusa is jealous to see a voluptuous shy elf at the door, hearing that the elf is currently on the run. When the elf asks Azusa to save her from the high demon Beelzebub, Azusa rushes to shut her door, but the elf stops her showering Azusa with praise. Inviting the elf inside, the elf introduces herself as Halkara, an elf from the nation of Hrant, and is also an apothecary, someone who deals with medicine. Azusa wonders what Beelzebub wants with her, learning that Halkara is a renowned apothecary, having invented the Nutri Spirit Energy drink using various mushrooms, even making decent profit with the product. Apparently, one day, Beelzebub herself tried out the energy drink, but fell ill, as the energy drink was rumored to be poisonous to demons, and has ever since chosen to hunt down and pay back Halkara for making the concoction. With Halkara begging for Azusa's help, Azusa agrees, giving Halkara the new title of Azusa's second pupil. But first they need to find more fitting clothes for Halkara. Getting to work, Azusa places a protective barrier over their home, serving Halkara a standard meal that brings her to tears. Halkara reveals she had to survive on tree nuts while she was fleeing, grateful to be fed a hearty meal, only to head out to gather herbs with Azusa. Getting to work, Halkara chooses to only pick mushrooms, mentioning how she specializes in mushroom picking, pointing out how to remove the poison from said mushrooms. Heading to a nearby river, the girls grill some of the mushrooms, prompting Halkara to serve them with some fermented soybean sauce, something Azusa notes smells like soy sauce. As the girls indulge in the mushrooms, Azusa mentions how they should bring the others next time, suddenly spotting Halkara acting all giddy. Weirded out, Azusa realizes Halkara ate some poisonous mushrooms, having accidentally mixed one of the herbal mushrooms for an edible one. Sadly, Halkara reveals the side effect of the poisonous mushroom to be stimulation of the body and mind, making her laugh uncontrollably whilst also feeling lewd. Immediately leaping back, Azusa watches as Halkara begs to play, but Azusa instead blasts Halkara with a spell. That night, Halkara serves the others her mushroom dishes, apologizing for her lewdness earlier, but luckily Azusa had blasted Halkara with a neutralizing spell before things got spicy. With everyone appreciating Halkara's mushroom dishes, Azusa takes Halkara to slay some slimes with her, jealous at Halkara's peculiar techniques. Even walking through town, Halkara draws the attention of men, but Azusa finds it weird that the girls are glaring at Halkara, both heading to check out some quests at the guild. Natalie informs the girls that a generous-looking quest was added recently, having been created by Beelzebub herself, and asks for a voluptuous apothecary elf in exchange for 15 million gold. That night, Azusa deduces that Beelzebub putting up the quest must mean she is aware of Halkara's location, asking Laika to evacuate the sisters elsewhere. With Laika and the sisters immediately heading off, Azusa hopes her barrier will buy them some more time, watching as Halkara downs an energy drink to stay active. Azusa scolds Halkara for drinking so many energy drinks and eating dinner without her, but Halkara swears that she did no such thing, both suddenly turning their attention to a strange-looking fly. Azusa remembers Beelzebub is Lord of the Flies, suddenly hearing a demonic voice call out to them, only to watch as the fly transforms into Beelzebub herself. With Halkara immediately bowing her head to submit, Azusa states she knows Beelzebub had lived alongside everyone the same time Halkara moved in, having needed to confirm that Halkara was the apothecary she was looking for. Grabbing onto Halkara, Beelzebub demands Halkara do what she says, but Azusa interjects stating that they should have a duel to settle this dispute. Laughing gleefully, they both agree to head outside, but as Beelzebub spreads her wings, she accidentally flies too high, ultimately getting zapped by Azusa's barrier. Hearing Beelzebub refuse to give up, Azusa suggests that they reschedule their duel, but out of nowhere, Beelzebub begins to quiver, suddenly falling unconscious. Placing her in one of the beds, Azusa prepares a healing spell, wondering if healing magic would work on a demon, but is relieved to see Beelzebub's pain go away. Waking up, Beelzebub thanks Azusa for saving her, asking to have more of Halkara's energy drink when she is better, confusing Azusa. Beelzebub reveals that Halkara's energy drink helped her pull an all-nighter, and it was ultimately her stress that caused her fever, not the drink itself. Additionally, the Nutri-Spirit energy drink is loved by the devil and all demons alike, relieving Halkara, but this news annoys Azusa. The next morning, Halkara explains everything to the others, revealing that she will continue production of her drink in their current province. Hearing that Halkara wants to remain as Azusa's pupil, Azusa has no problem suddenly hearing Beelzebub asking for a rematch when the time comes. Beelzebub says she'll teach Azusa how to summon her, but first teaches the sisters some history on demon society, only to become flustered hearing the sisters asking about Beelzebub's love life. Seeing her family grow, Azusa can't help but feel at home, only to receive some bad news from Laika the next day. Flashing back, we see a younger Laika spending time with a redhead, waking up before she can remember anything else. Following Azusa, she's sad to report she had no love life, disappointing Halkara as she personally deems herself a youthful teen, being only 200 years old. As for Falfa and Shalsha, they both admit that they love Azusa, all sitting down for the breakfast Laika prepared for them. Before they dig in, Laika announces that she'll be returning to her hometown, worrying everyone as they ask to know why. Before Azusa can jump to conclusions, Laika states that she'll be attending her older sister's wedding, inviting everyone to come along. Gladly accepting, they all set off towards Mount Rocco, Laika's hometown. Seeing Halkara being airsick, they make a pit stop near a river, only to continue their journey only to stop near a volcano. Having arrived at the first venue, the gang are amazed to see a gathering of red dragons. But suddenly, some acquaintances greet Laika, girls that Laika used to go to an all-girls school with. Heading to meet Laika's parents, Halkara accidentally gets mistaken for food, fighting for her life to survive. Reuniting with their daughter, Laika's parents thank Azusa for taking her in, introducing everyone to Layla, Laika's older sister. Halkara takes the chance to ask how Layla fell in love. Happy to hear it took 80 years for Layla to fall in love with her childhood best friend. With Azusa hoping that everything goes well for Layla, a sudden swarm of blue dragons appear, all blasting the surrounding area with their ice breaths. Laika reveals that blue dragons are from the Haint province and have come to crash the wedding, spotting Flatort, renowned as the bully queen of the blue dragons. Flatort voices how jealous she is not to be married even after 400 years, stating that she'll freeze over the nearby volcano. But this forces Laika's father to call for an all-out war. Seeing as it's too dangerous, Azusa suggests that they all flee, spotting Halkara playing dead, but snaps out of it when a dragon approaches. Running through the battlefield, Azusa carves a path for the gang to flee, all whilst Laika and Flatort exchange some insults. Having heard enough, the two begin brawling, all whilst Azusa and the others watch from a safe vantage point. Knowing that she shouldn't intervene in other families' affairs, Azusa chooses to lay low, but upon seeing a blue dragon attempt to freeze them, Azusa switches gears. With a single kick, Azusa sends the stray dragon flying, asking Halkara to take the sisters elsewhere, whilst she personally assists the red dragons. Following Laika, she and her father seem to be cornered, only to spot a hail of fireballs drawing the surrounding blue dragons elsewhere. Revealed to be Azusa, Azusa makes quick work of a dragon, watching as the surrounding dragons simultaneously unleash their ice breaths. Erecting a fire barrier to defend, Azusa speeds towards the attacking dragons, instantly pummeling them all to the ground. Spotting Flatort nearby, Azusa dashes in for a lethal kick, surprised to see Flatort tank the blow. Seeing Flatort firing off an ice breath, Azusa simply counters with a fireball, followed up with an axe kick that sends Flatort plummeting out of the sky. With the remaining blue dragons fleeing, the red dragons celebrate a successful victory, but Laika remembers that Flatort has still sent a separate force to freeze their nearby volcano. Heading to the nearby hot spring town, Laika is worried the tourist may indirectly get hurt by the dragon's dispute, reassured by Azusa that everything will run smoothly for her sister's wedding. Hearing commotion nearby, our duo rush up some stairs, spotting a flock of blue dragons bound to the ground by some dark magic. Realizing it to be the work of Beelzebub, Beelzebub mentions how she frequents the hot springs in town, annoyed when she stumbled onto some blue dragons threatening to run amok in town. Laika is amazed that Beelzebub bound 5 blue dragons with a single spell, learning that Beelzebub has lived for 3,000 years, reminding Beelzebub of her rematch with Azusa. Azusa takes the chance to thank Beelzebub, flustering her as she's showered with praise, only for the gang to return to the others. With Beelzebub helping to bind the other blue dragons, allowing Laika to order Flatort to return to her human form, handing Flatort a bill to cover all the damages and medical bills for the injured. Seeing Flatort refuse at first, Laika states Flatort will remain bound until she accepts, ultimately forcing Flatort to agree. Additionally, Azusa takes the chance to ask Flatort to sign a treaty for the blue and red dragons to get along, forcing Flatort into submission when Azusa gives off a menacing glare. With Beelzebub personally standing witness to the agreement of the treaty, Flatort feels defeated, exciting Azusa as she graciously thanks Beelzebub with another hug. Moving on to the second party, Azusa notices all the red dragons take their human form, but gets worried seeing Halkara stumbling around with booze in her hands. With Beelzebub joining the conversation, they all watch as Layla and her groom appear, all dazzled by Layla's beauty. Layla is glad to see Laika make so many friends, happy to hear Laika wish her the best, but is more surprised seeing Flatort giving her blessings as well. That night, Azusa and Laika catch some fresh air, leading Laika to request something from Azusa. As Laika rests on Azusa's thighs, she mentions how Layla would also comfort her when her parents scolded her, grateful that Azusa will now take care of Laika in Layla's place moving forward. With both girls returning to the party, they're disappointed seeing Halkara completely sloshed, forcing Beelzebub to hoist her away. Seeing Azusa has returned, Beelzebub suggests they all indulge in the hot spring, cutting to later that night where the girls all decompress. Azusa points out how Beelzebub is like an older sister. Flafa and Shalsha are her daughters. Laika is her younger sister, and Halkara is the troublesome junior. Having returned home, the gang find it strange hearing Halkara asking to do her chores earlier in the week, all convinced that Halkara has finally decided to move to Nazcute. With Halkara returning late that night, the gang throws Halkara a final goodbye party, but Halkara reveals that she is simply building another factory in Nazcute. With days passing, the gang notices Halkara always leaving bright and early only to come home late, something Azusa orders Halkara to avoid, but Halkara can't help it. Apparently, a ghost had appeared near her factory, and her factory is low on workers, creatures known as bound or separated spirits. Ghosts normally pass away and can't leave their home, prompting Halkara to beg Azusa to help her, something Azusa can't refuse seeing her adorable pupil desperate. The next day, Azusa makes use of a summoning circle, accidentally summoning Beelzebub into the bathtub instead of the summoning circle. When Beelzebub is asked to help out with removing the ghost, the sisters charm Beelzebub into agreeing, all waiting until night only to head to the town of Nazcute. At first glance, Halkara's factory is quite creepy, especially with the weird cat statue she placed outside. Nonetheless, Beelzebub takes the lead, allowing Azusa to hold her hand, followed by Halkara tagging along. With our trio heading to the most common room of the ghost sighting, Beelzebub gets annoyed seeing how cowardly Azusa and Halkara are, ordering the ghost hiding to show herself. As Beelzebub threatens to incinerate the entire factory if the ghost refuses to appear, Beelzebub spots a chair moving, rushing over to apprehend the ghost. Turning on the lights, the girls greet Rosalie, the ghost of a girl who took her own life. Rosalie revealed that when she was alive, she was a noble, kind, and polite person, but after being sold off by her parents, Rosalie gave up on life and ultimately became a ghost. Azusa asks what Rosalie plans to do with the rest of her life, annoying Beelzebub when Rosalie says she doesn't know. Instead, Beelzebub offers to erase Rosalie from their world. Rosalie quickly begs for her life, stating that she won't bother Halkara and her duties, but Rosalie points out she is unable to leave the factory. Beelzebub points out that Rosalie will be able to bypass any restrictions if she possesses a human and uses them as a vessel, but the human must be weak and easy to control. Unanimously turning to Halkara, Halkara is strapped to a chair, reminded that she is giving her body to save her factory. Giving it a go, Rosalie enters Halkara's body, amazed that the possession worked, but is more fixated on Halkara's assets. Azusa suggests that they move Rosalie to their home, wanting to give Rosalie the life she never got when she was alive, a remark that makes Rosalie cry, swearing to be Azusa's sister for life. Introducing Rosalie to everyone else, Beelzebub chooses to head to sleep first, leaving Rosalie to show everyone what she can do. Sadly, Rosalie fails to leave Halkara's body, something Beelzebub believes is due to Rosalie and Halkara's perfect compatibility. Beelzebub points out that Halkara will lose her body if Rosalie spends too long in her, and sadly Rosalie can't take her life since it would mean Halkara will pass as well. Brainstorming some ideas, the girls first try shaking Rosalie out, failing only to try and knock Rosalie out, but when that doesn't work, the gang tries scaring Rosalie out. Up in the sky, Laika flies Rosalie up very high, trying to scare Rosalie out, but she fails to separate from Halkera's body. Next, Laika flips upside down, dumping Rosalie to fall to her doom, but catches her before she hits the ground. Trying various tactics, the gang tries scaring Rosalie with demonic summons, tying and sending her down a river, and even getting a priest to try and separate them, but ultimately no luck. Seeing as they're running out of time, Azusa wonders if Halkera will return if Rosalie is put to sleep, pouring a glass of wine only to have Rosalie drink it. In an instant, Rosalie knocks out, allowing Halkera to reclaim her body, having not remembered anything since she was possessed. Now all the gang needs to do is wake Rosalie up as well, prompting Beelzebub to toss Rosalie into an ice bath, ejecting Rosalie from Halkera. Now officially welcomed into the family, Rosalie apologizes for causing all the rumors at Halkera's factory, but when Rosalie shows off her psychic abilities to move things with her mind, Azusa gets an idea. Heading back to Nazcute, Rosalie clears up any evil hauntings by helping to clean up the town, forever grateful to Azusa, seeing as she has found new purpose even after death. A few days later, Beelzebub announces that Azusa will be receiving a Demon Medal of Honor, praise for ending the dispute between the red and blue dragons. With Azusa accepting the award, the gang are shocked to hear the ceremony will be held in the demon realm, reassured by Beelzebub that demons are well-mannered creatures, and as long as they all show respect, there should be no issues. As the gang all collectively watch Halkera scoffing down her food, Halkera is later seen quivering at the thought of being around demons, wondering if she could fake being sick on the day. Azusa announces that they'll need formal dresses, asking if Rosalie would need to buy a new dress, but realizes that neither them nor Rosalie knows how to change out of her clothing. With Shaosha suggesting to visit a ghost specialist, the gang head to a strange hut in the woods, learning from an old man that the appearance of a ghost along with its clothes can't be changed since it's a manifestation of her past life. Heading into town, the gang wonder if Rosalie can reimagine a new outfit, something Rosalie says she can't. When Rosalie reassures everyone she'll be fine wearing the same clothes for the rest of her life, Azusa asks Rosalie to be more honest with herself, happy to hear Rosalie would like to wear a dress like everyone else. Getting to work, Azusa makes use of her create magic spell, working through the night to come up with a solution for Rosalie. The next morning, Azusa asks Rosalie to imagine herself wearing a dress, asking Rosalie to believe in her. With days passing by, Rosalie imagines a world where she has donned the dress Azusa has shown her, giving Azusa space to work on a new spell, only to have Rosalie and herself stand in different magic circles with the dress placed in the middle. Channeling mana into the magic circle, Rosalie is encased with magic, re-emerging with an outfit change fit for a ceremony. Azusa says she had worked on a spell that changed her image of Rosalie, but suddenly a massive floating creature appears, having been called by Beelzebub to pick up the girls for the ceremony. Beelzebub mentions their ride is a Leviathan, all amazed to see the creature house a building on its back. As the gang explores the luxury rooms provided, Beelzebub is proud to announce they have their own hot spring, but suddenly demands to know why one of her employees is slacking off. Apologizing and introducing herself as Vania the Leviathan, Vania gets dressed all whilst Beelzebub warns the gang not to bathe in the demon hot spring too long as the waters will melt them. Meeting back up with Vania, Vania reveals that her older sister Fatla is currently carrying them, and that Fatla and herself normally take turns to transport passengers and serve the guest meals. Vania takes the chance to announce their meals will primarily be poultry, all admiring the surrounding view as Beelzebub wraps up a tour of the building. As they all head to dinner, Vania serves up various poultry and vegetable dishes, impressing everyone as they admire the valuable ingredients used to create such dishes. With the gang decompressing in the hot spring, they all head to bed, but outside we spot Rosalie admiring the view. Looking off into the endless abyss that is the demon realm, Rosalie notices Halkera has woken up, having wanted some fresh air. Rosalie thanks Halkera once again for helping her explore the greater world, but Halkera reminds Rosalie that their family and such things are natural, heading off to take another bath before going to bed. The next morning, Azusa is glad to see everyone in such high spirits, horrified upon learning that Halkara was last heard visiting the hot spring while sleepy. Luckily, Halkara had fallen asleep under the bed. Cutting to later that morning, where Beelzebub introduces everyone to the royal capital of Vanzeld, mentioning how the gang will first meet the Demon King before the ceremony. Scared stiff, Azusa double-checks she wasn't hearing things, horrified upon confirming that they're heading to meet the Demon King now. Landing in the city of Vanzeld, the gang are escorted by carriage, spotting all types of demons that resemble both humans and animals. Arriving at Vanzeld Castle, Azusa finds an excuse to avoid meeting the Demon King, but Beelzebub reminds everyone that the Demon King wants to personally meet them. Upon entering the castle, the gang spot a maze-like structure, learning that the maze is meant to trick attackers or intruders, but luckily Beelzebub has no issues escorting everyone through the maze. Now in front of the throne room, Beelzebub reassures everyone that the Demon King is quite easygoing, opening a pair of massive doors, only to lay eyes on the jaw-dropping throne room. Before the gang can reach the center of the room, a small demon girl excitedly greets everyone, first shaking Azusa's hand only to move on to Halkara. Having accidentally squeezed too tight, the demon girl heals Halkara, but Halkara asks that the demon girl leave them alone, fearing that the Demon King is waiting for them. Leica points out how the throne is currently vacant, all hearing as Beelzebub announces that the Demon King is standing right in front of them, revealed to be the demon girl, Demon King Provapicaralies. Immediately bowing her head, Halkara apologizes for being so rude, relieved to hear Pakara won't take anything to heart. Rushing to raise her head, Halkara accidentally knocks out Pakara with the head, but prompting the demon's guards to surround the girls as Halkara is ultimately imprisoned, set to be executed, and her village may be offered as collateral. With the gang locked up as well, they quiver learning that they may be punished as well, but Azusa remembers Beelzebub suggesting that the gang wake up Pakara as only the Demon King can overturn sentences. Creating a plan, Azusa first gathers some hot water and tea set. Next, Azusa has Rosalie scout their surroundings, confirming that a garden is nearby that may house the plants Azusa is looking for. Having Leica transform into a cuter-looking dragon form, Leica is sent out to retrieve several plants, allowing Azusa to create an analeptic drink that will wake Pakora up. At that moment, Vania is seen clinging onto their window, having been sent by Beelzebub to relay a map for the gang to locate the sleeping Demon King. Upon hearing that Pakora is resting in the first aid room, Vania hands Azusa a devilish doctor disguise, annoying Azusa as she thinks Vania is toying with her. With Vania personally guiding Azusa through the castle, Vania notes how she didn't want to get involved, but Beelzebub had ordered her to assist. Making it to the first aid room, Vania is stopped by several high-ranking demons, demanding to know who Vania has brought, but seeing Vania struggling to come up with an alias and Beelzebub ignoring them, Azusa has no choice but to shed her disguise, announcing herself as the Witch of the Highlands. As several demons rush to restrain Azusa, Azusa instantly knocks them out with a single punch, forcing several demon mages to gather, simultaneously blasting Azusa with magic. Unfazed by the demon's magic, Azusa wipes out the enemies, impressing Beelzebub as Azusa could do some crazy things if she chooses to. Finally entering Pakora's resting area, Azusa prepares to drip-feed Pakora her medicine, but is stunned to see Pakora suddenly wakes up. Having detected a strange substance near her, Pakora had instinctively awoken, demanding to know what Azusa was trying to feed her. Hearing Azusa reassure her it was just medicine to make Pakora feel better, Pakora leaps out of bed, demanding to duel Azusa to prove Azusa is not an assassin. With Pakora wielding a sword, they both head outside, prompting Pakora to make the first move. Having dodged Pakora's first slash, Azusa speeds up, spotting hundreds of more slashes aimed at her. Seeing as Pakora is slowly dicing away at her clothing, Azusa is forced to relinquish her hat to avoid a lethal blow. Seeing Azusa running away, Pakora reminds Azusa that her elf friend's life is on the line, triggering Azusa as she dodges Perkara's barrage of slashes only to leap over her. Warning Pakora to not toy with her family, Azusa rushes in close, igniting her fist, which forces Pakora to defend with her sword. With Pokora losing grip of her blade, she is smashed into the nearby castle, realizing her blade has been shattered by Azusa's fist. Cornering Pokora, Azusa declares that she has won, forcing Pokora to agree to spare Halkara. Surprisingly, Pokora deems Azusa her new sister, having always wanted a sister to boss her around, and had only tested Azusa to see if she fit the role. Weirded out, Azusa chooses to dominate Pokora, ordering Pokora to release Halkara at once. Listening to Azusa, Pokora officially rids Halkara of any crimes, impressing Beelzebub as Pokora has taken a liking to Azusa. Sitting down for some tea, Azusa is forced to listen to Pokora recount dreams of one day serving someone, annoyed that Beelzebub refused to talk down to her. Pokora takes the chance to ask Azusa to give her a kiss, wanting to recreate a love scene between a tale of two sisters sharing their affection. But Azusa states she can hug Pokora at most. Choosing to beg, Pokora ultimately convinces Azusa to kiss her cheeks. But when Azusa performs the kiss, the others suddenly stumble into the room, accusing Azusa of fiending over girls. Pissed, Pokora orders the execution of Azusa's party for ruining the mood. But the sisters take the chance to ask for a kiss of their own, prompting the sisters to kiss Azusa in return. Seeing Azusa hugging everyone, Pokora concedes, clasping onto Azusa, only to reveal the ceremony tomorrow has a surprise for them. The next day, various prestigious demons gather for the ceremony, amazing the girls as they dress to impress. Kicking off the ceremony, Pokora starts by announcing the recipients of the demon medals, ultimately landing on Azusa as Azusa is given a medal in the peace category. Surprisingly, Pokora calls Laika to the stage as well as Flatort, awarding all 3 demon medals only to force Flatort to promise to never break their treaty. Seeing as demons are multiracial and prestigious, Pokora asks Azusa to stroke Flatort's horns. Seeing Flatort agitated, Azusa learns that blue dragons only allow their masters to touch their horn, but seeing as it is to hold up their peace, Flatort gives in. Kneeling down, Flatort feels ashamed to allow Azusa to touch her horn, declaring that she has now submitted to Azusa herself. That evening, the gang ride back on the Leviathan, noticing that Fatla is now serving them. Azusa does wonder why Flatort is riding home with them, learning that since she is now Flatort's master, Flatort must accompany Azusa wherever she goes. As Fatla returns with some drinks, she accidentally trips, forcing Flatort to intercept, getting doused in order to protect Azusa. Heading to clean off, Azusa hears that the blue dragons normally serve dragon knights, swearing complete loyalty to their masters. Seeing Flatort so lifeless, Azusa orders Flatort to live for herself, stating that Flatort is finally free from her ancestry. Heading outside, Flatort asks Azusa to spoil her with some head pats, annoying Laika as she drags Flatort away from Azusa. As Laika and Flatort fight, the others listen in on their bickering, all whilst Azusa thinks about how they have a new family member. On a bright and sunny day, Azusa enjoys the peaceful atmosphere, only to hear Laika and Flatort fighting downstairs. Heading downstairs, Azusa demands to know what all the commotion is about, learning that the girls had simply been arguing over whose cookies were better. Rosalie explains that since the girls swore to never fight physically, they choose to face off with their cooking, leaving Azusa to decide the victor. Upon tasting both of their dishes, Azusa states both are equally as good, but off to the side, the other girls suspect that dragon girls get quite angry after not eating fresh meat in a while. At that moment, Natalie visits, mentioning how there is an overabundance of longhammer boars roaming the Nika forest, showing them a quest involving said boars that normal adventurers can't accept. At first, Azusa refuses since she doesn't need any more money, but Natalie mentions how boars aren't monsters and are instead animals that can be harvested for meat. Eager to eat meat, Flatort and Laika beg Azusa to accept the quest, something Azusa can't refuse as it'll make the dragon girls less agitated around each other. Immediately setting out to the Nika forest, Flatort and Laika are in high spirits, but Azusa notes how the terrain is steep, favoring the boars. Having left the more frail girls at home, Rosalie appears to report her findings up ahead, mentioning how there are 15 boars gathered near a river. Brimming with excitement, Flatort rushes towards the direction of the boars, but ends up getting caught by the various branches, annoyed that her clothes are getting in her way. Coming up with a solution, Flatort strips, rushing towards the river only to return embarrassed, having been spotted by several female adventurers. Choosing to put back on the bare minimum, Flatort rushes back towards the river, forcing the others to give chase this time, confused to see the boars have stripped Flatort. Unable to retrieve her clothes, Flatort is forced to watch her clothes float down the river, giving in to her wild side as she takes the boars naked. As Azusa and the other girls join in, they rack up a pile of boar corpses, all sitting down to devour some roasted boar steaks. Happy to see the dragon girls satiating their urges, the gang spot Beelzebub and Vania flying by, having been sent to check out the boar situation as well, but instead retrieve Flatort's lost clothes. Seeing as there is enough for the entire family, Azusa holds a little gathering, all devouring the infinite supply of boar before them. That night, whilst everyone is fast asleep, Azusa speaks with Laika and Flatort, happy to hear the girls have calmed down after their boar hunt. Azusa learns that the girls were initially fighting to see who could spend the night with her, resolving said issue by allowing both girls to share the bed with her. Azusa states that she'll play the role of the big sister. Flatort is the middle sister, and Laika is the younger sister. As the girls head off to sleep, Azusa awakens in the middle of the night, noticing the dragon girls have vanished only to discover they've snuck off to have a midnight snack. Heading over to Halkera's Nazcute factory the next day, Azusa is praised for helping out at the factory, overhearing some of the workers mention that someone is impersonating and claiming to be the Witch of the Highlands. Reporting the news to the others, the girls immediately call the execution of this imposter, but Azusa says she simply wants to point out the wrongdoings of this impersonator. Splitting up, Azusa and Laika head west, noticing some sort of event happening, but Laika suggests they visit a tavern to get some intel. Upon entering the tavern, the girls are called pigs by the owner, realizing the theme of the bar is for sadistic women to insult their customers, something that their customers deeply enjoy. When Azusa asks the store owner for some intel, Azusa and Laika are forced to work a bid in exchange for the information, both taking turns insulting the customers. Having completed their agreement, the girls are told to head north, noticing a crowd forming in town. Upon confirming that the crowd have gathered around the impersonator, the girls listen in as an older lady claims herself to be the Witch of the Highlands, yet she is unable to give the crowd any medicine. Taking center stage, Azusa calls out the old lady's lies, demanding the lady challenge her, but suddenly realizes the old lady has fled. With Laika helping track down the lady, Azusa chooses to cast a binding spell, forcing the imposter to shed her disguise, revealed to be a young girl. Returning to her home, the young girl introduces herself as Ino the Witch, someone who also dabbles in medicine creation. Ino shows her some mandragora pills she's invented, meant to release exhaustion and eye strain, but Azusa wonders why Ino doesn't sell her products to the public. Ino states that as a witch, she doesn't want to draw too much attention to herself, suggesting that someone else should help market and sell the product. Laika points out how inconsistent Ino is, wanting to remain humble as a witch yet make a living by selling her product, but Azusa helps clear up the misunderstanding. Azusa states that although Ino is a witch, she is still human, meaning her contradictory morals are to be expected. Amazed that Azusa understands her, Ino cries that she wants people to recognize her talents, wishing for the day a bronze statue of herself is created in her hometown. Happy to see Ino so honest, Azusa chooses to help Ino out, cutting to the next day where the gang visit a marketplace, spotting Ino all dressed up to sell her product, having disguised herself to avoid the stage fright. At the same time, Azusa spots Laika and Flatort selling her cookie for profit as well, weirded out to see the sadistic tavern owner has set up shop as well. With Ino's store popping off, we cut to several days later where Azusa is happy to hear Ino's pills are slowly growing in popularity, making Halkera wonder if there is a business opportunity to be made. As Azusa whips up a meal for the family, she is suddenly called by Shalsha, both rushing upstairs only to spot slime has invaded their home. Before Azusa can slay the slide, Shalsha reveals that the slime is Flafa. having just woken up to see her sister has become a slime. With the gang gathering around Falfa, they rack their brains for a way to turn Falfa back, wondering if Falfa can simply transform back to her human form. Sadly, Xiaoxia says slime spirits can do no such thing, making Azusa wonder if she'll need to create a spell to solve this rare scenario. Summoning Beelzebub once again, Beelzebub is heartbroken to learn Falfa has become a slime, revealing that Azusa should consult the intelligent slime that resides in the Demon Castle. With Laika helping escort the gang to the Demon Castle, Beelzebub leads them deeper underground to where the intelligent slime is, embarrassed to admit that she had forgotten how to navigate the maze-like castle. Having made it back to the surface, the gang are greeted by Pokora, asking for a kiss from Azusa, only to point the gang to a nearby shed where Beelzebub unearths a hidden passage, ultimately making it to the intelligent slime's lair. Seeing a board filled with words hung up on the wall, they learn the slimes use it to communicate, prompting Beelzebub to ask if the intelligent slime knows how to revert Falfa back to her human form. The intelligent slime states that the gang should visit the tallest mountain in the Timuriana province, where a magician slime will help with their problem. But seeing as it's getting late, Azusa says they'll resume searching tomorrow, giving the intelligent slime the nickname of Intelli. Returning home, Azusa helps feed Falfa some vegetables, relaxing with a warm bath only to head to the designated location the next day. Upon knocking on the home of the magician slime, Azusa is greeted by a young girl, surprised to hear the magician slime is the girl, having used transformation magic to take the form of a human. Heading inside, Azusa gives the magician slime the nickname of Meiji, asking for help with Falfa's issue. Borrowing Falfa, Meiji stuffs her face into Falfa's body, figuring out that Falfa had turned into a slime due to her damaging a muscle when sleeping, suggesting the gang visit Fighter Slime, as transformation magic will only temporarily solve the issue. Meiji points the gang towards the southern town of Kelni, learning that Fighty the fighting slime is obsessed with growing stronger, having entered a fighting tournament, prompting Azusa to suggest she join and force Fighty to help them. The next day, the gang visit Kelni, surprised to see lots of buff men are lining up to participate in the tournament, even spotting Beelzebub disguised as to not draw too much attention. With both girls entering the tournament, both Azusa and Beelzebub easily progress to the semi-finals, but when Azusa gets pumped to face Fighty in the finals, Azusa spots Beelzebub defeating Fighty in the semi-finals, losing all motivation to continue participating. With only Azusa and Beelzebub's match left, Azusa is happy to see Fighty help restore Falfa to her human form, promising to win as to not let her family down. Seeing as it's the perfect stage for their rematch, both girls get serious, exciting Beelzebub as she rushes forward with a sneak attack. Reading her movements, Azusa attempts to counter, watching as Beelzebub spreads her wings to fly and evade, surprising onlookers as they fail to realize Beelzebub is a demon. Azusa asks that Beelzebub attack her face-on, shocked to hear Beelzebub is aware of several weak points on Azusa, but seeing Beelzebub still hesitant to attack, Azusa is forced to taunt Beelzebub. Angry, Beelzebub dives head first at Azusa, but as the smoke clears, it's revealed that Azusa had stopped the attack by grasping onto Beelzebub's cheeks. Now on even footing, Azusa dashes in close for a punch, blocked by Beelzebub, who retaliates with a flurry of attacks. As both girls exchange equal blows, Beelzebub declares Azusa as a worthy rival, but Azusa can't help but notice Beelzebub growing weaker the longer they fight. Not wanting to finish off Beelzebub, Azusa suddenly hears Falfa proudly cheering her on, giving her the strength to finish the duel. As Beelzebub charges in for the finishing blow, Azusa slips her punch, finishing Beelzebub off as Azusa is declared the ultimate winner. With Beelzebub admitting defeat to Azusa, she asks for another duel in the future, pointing out how her victory today has given her more attention. That evening, Azusa thanks Fighty once again for curing Falfa, surprised to hear that Fighty is obsessed with growing stronger and earning lots of money. Fighty takes the chance to ask to be Azusa's student, amazed to see Azusa decimate her opponent even without any martial arts knowledge. When Azusa refuses, Fighty's asked to at least have a duel, both heading outside for their match. Before Fighty can land a punch, Fighty senses Azusa's aura, realizing that Azusa had slain countless slimes in the past. Having fallen unconscious, Fighty wakes up realizing a slime like her is not worthy to be Azusa's student, suddenly noticing Beelzebub showing up. Fighty instead asks to be Beelzebub's student, who is forced to take Fighty in upon seeing Azusa and the slime sisters begging her to. Several days later, the gang are shopping in town when they stumble onto a poster mentioning that the famous minstrel Shifunoya is visiting Flatta. Sadly, none of the girls know Shifunoya. Turning to Flatort, Flatort reveals that Shifunoya is a talented minstrel that only plays in the capital, piquing Azusa's interest. Heading over to Shifunoya's gig, the crowd admires the minstrel's furry tail and fluffy ears. Out of nowhere, Shifunoya begins playing rock music at an extreme volume, scaring the crowd away as Flatort reveals Shifunoya's type of music is mainly death-style music. Flatort admits that Shifunoya isn't as famous as most minstrels, both watching as Shifunoya puts her heart and soul into her performance, only to realize Shifunoya had fallen unconscious having been starving. Taking her home, the gang watches as Shifunoya eats her fill, only to wash up, officially introducing herself as Cuckoo the Almiraj. The girls are surprised by Cuckoo's natural beauty, saddened to hear that Cuckoo's minstrel job doesn't pay the bills, having moved out of her hometown 63 years ago to pursue her musical passion. Sadly, Cuckoo's passion didn't translate over to her career, making Azusa offer Cuckoo to stay in their home for a while, surprised to hear Cuckoo plans to give up on her music career. Instead, Cuckoo shows off several job offers for waitresses, knowing that she'll be able to make a living if she follows what's best for her. But Azusa asks if Cuckoo has truly given up on her passion. Cuckoo corrects Azusa, stating that she will forever love music, something Azusa is glad to hear. Azusa points out that Cuckoo should double down and reconsider her future while she stays with them, reassuring Cuckoo that she doesn't need to pay any rent, but Cuckoo offers to play for them. Upon hearing her death rock persona, Cuckoo stresses out the girls as they can't bear Cuckoo's music, forcing Azusa and Flatort to have a meeting with Cuckoo. Flatort begins ridiculing Cuckoo's choice of music, annoyed that Cuckoo is too stubborn to try different genres of music and instead offers to show Cuckoo something. Surprisingly, Flatort flawlessly plays the guitar while singing, earning herself a round of applause as Azusa suggests that Cuckoo brainstorm some song lyrics with the others. Holding a mini talent show, Azusa has the girls offer up some lyrics, starting with Laika, who is rejected due to her serious tone. Next is Halkara, who focuses solely on advertising her products. Then it's the Slime Sisters, who show off an adorable-sounding song, only for Rosalie to wrap up the show with a gloomy and depressing song. Having been inspired, Cuckoo agrees to shed her old persona of Shifunoya, spending more time with the girls as she brainstorms a completely new style. With it already being several days, Cuckoo decides to head out, reminded by Flatort that she needs to stay consistent and persevere to make up for her lack of musical talent. At that moment, Beelzebub appears, asking to drink with everyone since it's her day off, giving Cuckoo the perfect chance to show everyone what she's been working on. Running through her songs, Beelzebub is amazed, officially inviting Cuckoo to Vanzeld's Music Festival, where Cuckoo will be performing for 20,000 people. With the gang flown over to the Demon Castle by Fatla, Cuckoo makes preparations for the festival, all whilst the girls explore the town. Returning that evening, Azusa spots Cuckoo more demoralized than ever, especially after seeing the venue size. Speaking up, Flatort reassures Cuckoo she'll be fine, inspiring Cuckoo to give it her all. That night, the gang stand amongst the crowd as Cuckoo takes center stage. Nervous at first, but upon seeing the girls cheering her on, Cuckoo eases up. In mere moments, Cuckoo's music captivates the crowd, all hypnotized by Cuckoo's catchy lyrics. Throwing Cuckoo an after-party to celebrate her growth as a human, Cuckoo is unable to express her gratitude, hearing from Beelzebub that she has already received hundreds of requests to play in the capital. Before the night wraps up, Flatort expresses how she feels about Cuckoo's perseverance as an artist through her own death punk song, bringing Cuckoo to tears as she considers Flatort her master for life. Seeing as it's a perfect day, Halkara heads out to farm some mushrooms, throwing a barbecue to cheer everyone up. As Azusa devours the delectable mushrooms, she suddenly hears Halkara describe the dwarf mushroom she just ate to be poisonous, suddenly falling unconscious. Having woken up, Azusa is shown to have shrunk, ordering Halkara to figure out a way to turn her back. In the meantime, the girls take turns playing and admiring how adorable Azusa is, forcing everyone to adapt to this new child in their family. The next day, Laika serves Azusa a child-sized meal, asking for permission to pet her. With both Laika and Flatort stroking Azusa, we cut to later that day, where Rosalie asks to comb Azusa's hair. Seeing Azusa so tiny, Rosalie points out how Azusa is like a doll, only for Halkara to interrupt them, apologizing since she hasn't figured out a solution to turn Azusa back. With no other choice, Azusa summons Beelzebub, immediately adoring Azusa's miniature size. With Beelzebub agreeing to help, both the Slime Sisters accompany Azusa, all riding on the Leviathan to the demon realm, all whilst Beelzebub indulges in the girl's cuteness. Walking through the castle, Azusa fears Pakora will learn of her tiny form, suddenly picked up as Pakora hugs Azusa tight. Pakora divulges that in the demon realm, a world tree contains pharmacists that should have the knowledge to cure any disease, suggesting Azusa climb said tree. Azusa hears that the world tree is hollow, is like a complex maze, has 108 floors, and is filled with wild animals. Seeing as she has no choice, Pakora asks for Vanya and Fatla to escort Azusa, all three immediately heading out. Upon entering the entrance, they note the dungeon-like structure, but are shocked to see the first floor has been converted into a tourist store with a sign pointing to an elevator to the 10th floor. Fatla mentions how coins are demon currency, and the higher people want to go the more expensive, pointing out how wolves can be seen roaming the 11th and 12th floors. With Vanya purchasing the trio some famous deep-fried buns, the gang ride the elevator to the 11th floor, noticing they need to pay 500 coins as they want to see the wildlife. Paying the coins, the gang head into the jungle area, suddenly surrounded by wolves. But as the wolves pounce on them, it's revealed that the wolves are tamed, having detected that their visitors are quite strong. Azusa hears that there will be an elevator to the 17th floor and another one on the 19th floor, shocked to hear the outrageous prices needed to ride the elevators, hearing that the world tree had been intentionally converted into a dungeon to force people to use the elevators. Having made it to floor 38, the trio rests for the night, choosing to indulge in a hot spring. The sisters take the chance to thank Azusa for this experience. Having only visited the world tree when they were younger, all three agreeing they'll aim for floor 84 tomorrow. Just as promised, the gang progress smoothly through various mazes and terrain, resting on floor 84, only to encounter some sloths on the next floor. With the girls taking turns to fight and scare away the sloths, they continue to progress up the tree, passing floors 89, 96, 102, finally reaching floor 107. Upon opening the floor's gate, the girls admire the view, prompting Vanya and Fleisha to reminisce on memories with their family, having climbed the tree when they were younger. Finally, at floor 108, Azusa asks the receptionist for medicine to cure her dwarfism, shocked to hear Eno's Mandragora pills cure the curse. Spotting Eno nearby, Eno mentions how wyverns can be used to ascend the tree in an instant, annoying Azusa as she confronts Pakora, innocently stating that she had forgotten to tell Azusa about the wyvern and the pills. Instructed to take the pills in front of everyone, Azusa slowly begins reverting to her true size, suddenly realizing that her normal body is bursting out from her child clothing. Realizing Pakora was teasing her, Azusa drags Pakora into the bath with everyone, scolding Pakora for playing pranks on her. Atoning for her sins, Pakora takes the chance to ask if she can fondle Azusa's breast, chasing Azusa around the bath as the others watch the girls arguing. In the next couple of days, the girls head into town, hearing that the town is holding a dance festival for the next 2 days. Azusa admits she only recently found out about this yearly festival, having distanced herself from the town in the past 300 years, but believes it would be fun to explore, seeing as she has a family with her. Stopping at a bar, Azusa notes that Halkara can make drinks, Laika can cook, and the Slime Sisters can serve customers, giving Azusa the idea of creating their own coffee shop for the festival. Rushing to take everyone's measurements, Azusa hands out maid outfits for everyone, adoring the Slime Sisters but shuns Halkara for not fitting into her outfit. As for Flatort, the gang can't help but admire her perfect fit, prompting Azusa to cast transformation magic on Rosalie so she can fit in. Finally, Laika reveals her own stunning fit, all heading inside to brainstorm a menu. But Azusa immediately refuses to allow Halkara to serve any of her products at their shop. Hearing the Dragon Girls fighting, Azusa shoots down Laika's omelet eating challenge idea along with Flatort's all-you-can-eat meat course, choosing to come up with the menu herself. As the girls work together to convert their home into a coffee shop, they head into town that evening, all handing out flyers in preparation for the opening of their witch's house. Waking up bright and early, Azusa becomes speechless seeing the endless lines of customers, rushing the girls to get ready as Azusa announces their grand opening. Upon seating the customers, the girls get to work, all individually drawing the attention of each customer as they each show their own unique gifts and talents, pumping Azusa up as she sees the customers are enjoying the food and atmosphere. With Shalsha manning the cash register, Azusa watches as the girls speed up the service, only for Azusa to notice Beelzebub has lined up. Angry that Azusa didn't personally invite her to her store, Beelzebub heads out back, donning her maid outfit only to help the girls with the influx of customers. With Azusa checking in on the cooks, she's glad to see Beelzebub working so well with the others, heading to check on the customers only to realize Pakura has also joined in and is helping with serving. Additionally, Azusa notices that Flata and Vania are assisting the cooks, also taking over as managers to ensure a smoother workflow. With Fighty, Ino, and Cuckoo also showing up to help with service, Azusa closes up the store as Natalie herself finishes her meal. With Pakora and the Leviathan sisters leaving, the gang clean up, all celebrating a successful day, as Azusa reflects on how much she's changed since she's met everyone. In the morning, Azusa and Laika return to their usual routines, hunting slimes only to make plans to attend the final day of the dance festival. The season ends with the girls all offering to show Azusa their dance skills, only for Azusa to hear a knock at the door, graciously greeting their next visitor. Continuing from the previous season, we follow the girls going through their morning routine, with Azusa waking up bright and early only to head outside passing by Rosalie. After washing her face with Shalsha and Falfa, we see Laika preparing breakfast whilst Rosalie sets the plates, eventually handing the cooking tools over to Azusa. Checking on Flatort, Azusa hurries Flatort out of bed, all finally sitting down together as a family for their usual breakfast. The girls compliment Laika's new bread recipe, a recipe Laika reveals has both honey and cheese to give the sweet and salty taste. Seeing the sunny day, Azusa says she'll be traveling south today, asking Laika to give her a ride, prompting Halkara to utter she'll come along to gather mushrooms. Rosalie wonders why Azusa is visiting the south, hearing that Azusa is in need of some herbs to make more medicine. But as we cut to later that day, we see our trio standing in a wheat field, exciting Azusa, as this means she'll get to savor rice in this world as well. Turning to the side, Azusa asks what plants are growing besides the wheat, surprised to hear that red bean plants are also quite abundant, resembling Azuki beans from a previous life. Getting an idea, the gang return home with items they've gathered, leading Azusa to announce she'll be making something sweet for the Slime Sisters. First, Azusa will use the beans to make red bean paste, and seeing as the Slime Sisters along with Flatort are asleep, the girls hurry to surprise them. Working together, the girls knead some dough, boil the red beans, shape and stuff some buns only to steam the red bean buns. Sadly, upon inspecting their work, the girls are weirded out by the strange-looking buns, making Azusa wonder how they can fix things. After a second attempt, the girls realize their buns are too dry, all surprised to see Flator has awoken and is advising the girls to add more moisture to the buns. Azusa declares they'll continue to try until they succeed, all taking roles to help craft the dessert. But this time as Azusa opens the steam basket, the girls celebrate seeing as they've succeeded. Right on cue, the smell from the buns draws in the Slime Sisters, prompting Azusa to tell the girls that the buns are called manju and have a sweet surprise inside of them. As the sisters bite into the fluffy treats, they both exclaim how sweet it tastes, relieving Azusa as her hard work paid off. With the other girls digging in, Halkara wonders if they could sell the buns, all whilst the slime sisters comment that the buns look like slimes, giving Azusa an idea. Moving forward in time, we see Azusa set up a mini stand in town selling her new slime buns, an item that attracts the townsfolk along with Natalie herself. Falfa takes charge by giving out some free samples, managing to please Natalie and several others, and this ends up convincing the customers to swarm the stand, all demanding to bulk buy boxes of the buns. As the girls get to work packaging and handing out the buns, we see off to the side Natalie and two others utter that Azusa is quite the merchant, having run a successful coffee shop, and is now serving buns, freaking Azusa out as she is meant to be playing the role of a witch, but seeing her family excited to run a stand, Azusa reasons it's fine. That evening, the girls toast to a successful day of sales, all impressed at their store being a hit, but Halkara brings up the idea of having stamp cards to help draw and repeat customers. Seeing the stamp card, Xiaoxia utters that the stamp card belongs to the goddess Megamega, being quite popular nowadays, seeing as the goddess tends to meet people in person, and this usually brings good fortune to those who meet her or attend her shows. Azusa also hears that goddess Megamega also agreed to partner with Halkara's drink brand, but upon seeing a poster detailing Megamega's next show will be in the capital, the gang decide they'll check out the goddess themselves. In the provincial capital of VIDZ, it turns out that Azusa, Halkara, and Xiaoxia are the only ones interested in meeting the goddess, but Xiaoxia in particular seems to be brimming with excitement. Azusa takes the chance to ask what gods Xiaoxia love, prompting Xiaoxia to begin lecturing the girls on the existence of gods and when they were first discovered 1500 years ago. But as the trio continue through town, they all spot hundreds of flyers for Megamega's show. Heading to the event venue, the trio are seated amongst the crowd, but as the room lights go dim, the crowd begins to roar, all holding up Megamega memorabilia. With the curtains opening, Azusa suddenly spots a familiar-looking face ascend the stage, screaming out loud as Azusa realizes Megamega is the goddess that reincarnated her. Megamega is happy to see Azusa is doing great, but hearing a crowd member ask why Megamega has descended to their world, Megamega explains that high-ranking gods govern multiple worlds, whereas a low-ranking god like herself governs a single. Megamega declares she'll make sure her world is the happiest, garnering cheers from the crowd. Megamega encourages everyone to collect stamps on their stamp cards by helping others or doing good, and once the stamp card is filled, they should start over and continue doing good things, something Azusa agrees is quite righteous. As the event ends, Azusa is asked to have a private chat with Megamega, choosing to separate with the girls only to head toward the goddess's green room alone. Deep in thought, Azusa wonders if her immortality along with her witch status is something the goddess wants to speak to her about, beginning to panic as she doesn't want her current life to change. Upon entering the goddess's room, Azusa begs Megamega to allow her to continue living in this world, something Megamega is more than happy to allow. That evening, Laika picks our trio up, but the girls wonder what Azusa spoke about with Megamega. Azusa says their chat wasn't too important, but as we flash back, we see Megamega confessing to being demoted as a god, having been punished for reincarnating Azusa with an immortal body, something that horrifies Azusa. Megamega says she is now a local administrator in this world, and that is the actual real reason she is living amongst the humans, demanding Azusa keep her secrets in exchange for some stamps in her stamp card. At home, Azusa is seen with 3 stamps having accepted the goddess's bribe, but surprisingly the Slime Sisters give Azusa another stamp each, inspiring the other 4 girls to all voice how grateful they are that Azusa gave them a home, all giving Azusa a stamp each. As the girls spend the rest of the night cutting out stamp cards for themselves, Azusa voices how lucky she is to have such a loving family. The next day, we see Azusa cash in some magic stones, receiving 12,000 gold only to hear that their slime buns sold out again. Azusa reassures Natalie that she doesn't want to get rich, but Natalie remembers to give the Slime Sisters a letter, exciting the girls as they cry that there is a World Spirit Summit. At home, Xiaoxia explains that the Spirit Summit is held at the bank of Nanterre Lake, and the Slime Sisters were invited because they're slime spirits. Azusa is worried about sending the slime girls alone to the summit, but luckily the letter permits guardians to tag along, cutting to several days later where we see Azusa and the slime girls heading to the event by carriage. Azusa finds it adorable that Xiaoxia had stayed up all night excited about the event, but Azusa hears that the girls had packed heavy bags in preparation for meeting other spirits. With the carriage driver taking a break, we see Azusa unveiling a basket full of sandwiches, handing them out only for the sisters to indulge in the delectable fluffy egg sandwiches. Continuing along their route, the girls pass through a forest only to emerge onto Nanterre Lake, where they are speechless at the gorgeous scenery. Apparently, the lake was formed a millennium ago, where rain filled up a hole created from blue dragons fighting. But seeing as the summit starts at night, the trio decide to rest for now. At night, the lake suddenly begins to glow, waking up the girls, but out of nowhere, various spirits flood the scene, shocking the girls. Immediately getting to work, Falfa rushes to introduce herself to the spirits, but Xiaoxia herself is quite shy, asking Azusa if she could accompany her. Heading over to 3 spirits, Xiaoxia shyly offers up some slime buns in exchange for friendship, explaining the reason for her heavy bag, but the spirits gladly accept, introducing themselves as a waterfall spirit, a volcanic ash spirit, and a cloud spirit. Seeing as things are going well, Azusa takes the chance to introduce herself as Xiaoxia's guardian, but the spirits jolt in horror, seeing as the Witch of the Highlands is basically a god compared to them. Azusa cries that she isn't a scary person, but Azusa soon realizes the 3 spirits love to gossip and share rumors they've heard, especially regarding undying entities that reek in the south. As the spirits continue to chat, Azusa wonders when the event will begin, but out of nowhere the spirits bid farewell, all suddenly disappearing. From the lake, a lady appears, declaring that the summit has concluded and that the whole event is to encourage spirits to chat with one another. Falfa says she loved the event, but Xiaoxia wished there were more things to do, but the lady admits the original summit had to be changed and shortened, seeing as most spirits weren't interested. The lady apologizes for the late introduction, introducing herself as Yufufu the Droplet Spirit, uttering that she was the one who sent out the invitations. Yufufu says she was excited to meet the Slime Sisters, inviting the girls over to her home, only to serve up a meal for the gang as they chat. With the sisters knocking out first, Yufufu serves Azusa some tea, only to have a private chat with her. Yufufu admits she wanted to speak with Azusa herself, having heard that Azusa has created a family where many girls can rely on her, but Azusa herself seems quite lonely at times as she doesn't have anyone to rely on. Pulling Azusa in for a hug, Yufufu offers to be Azusa's mother, commenting how proud she is for all Azusa's done. Just like that, Azusa heads to bed only to awaken the next day, greeting the Slime Sisters. But Azusa gets embarrassed seeing as her clothes are wet, something Yufufu admits to doing, seeing as Azusa got wet when she hugged Yufufu, the Droplet Spirit. With the trio departing, Azusa is glad to have found a mother figure in her life. But as they all head home, Azusa wonders why Pecora and the others are in her home. Pecora innocently asks to try Azusa's slime buns, feeding Azusa some cookies she baked herself, only to celebrate seeing as Azusa loves her cookies. Azusa learns that Pecora and the girls are visiting as they were investigating sightings of undeads nearby, still not too sure whether these creatures are ghosts or demons, and seeing as the demons govern them, Pecora and the girls are here to ensure the humans don't run into them and attack them. Pecora asks Azusa to help them, annoying Azusa, but with Rosalie and the Slime Sisters convincing Azusa otherwise, Azusa, Beelzebub, and Vania all head into town. With a few minutes passing, we see Fatla flying over town only to sprinkle various flyers offering up a reward to anyone that can point the girls towards the undeads, a tactic Beelzebub and Pecora came up with, seeing as it would take too long if they did it themselves. At the same time, we see Fighty arrive on the scene, having been ordered by Beelzebub to hand out flyers as well, but Azusa worries that Fighty is pushing her body too much and is too desperate for money. That evening, Fighty refuels, all whilst Beelzebub seems embarrassed seeing as her flyers have not given them any leads, But upon reading that undeads never age and appear dead and alive, Azusa remembers the rumors about entities being spotted in the south, discussed amongst the three spirits. Immediately heading south, the gang stumble onto a village, remembering that undeads love rotten fruit, but upon seeing an older lady carrying around some rotten fruit, the gang decide to follow her. The lady is seen visiting a house, calling out to Pondeli, but the person that answers the call seems to be an exhausted cat girl, having stayed up all night. Seeing as Pondeli isn't what they're looking for, Azusa suddenly finds something strange about how the girl is speaking, all waiting for the lady to leave only to knock on the house themselves. Azusa pretends to be delivering something, prompting Pondeli to open her door, suddenly freaking out seeing strangers, but Beelzebub has already wedged her feet between the door. Beelzebub declares Pondeli to be the undead she's looking for, but when Pondeli denies the claim, Beelzebub threatens to cast a purifying spell on her to check. Pondeli eventually gives in, inviting the gang into her home only to admit she has been an undead for 40 years, having originally lived in the capital. Pondeli states that she spent too much time lazing around and eventually forgot to eat and passed away, but luckily Pondeli magically became an undead. Pondeli is grateful that she now has all the time in the world to laze around and not work, even choosing to monitor the gravestones nearby to ensure they don't fall over, but the girls still point out how pathetic Pondeli sounds. Pondeli utters that a downside of being an undead is that she has no one to play with as her friends all grow up and leave her, but Fighty mentions how training alone is a must to get strong. Butting in, Beelzebub declares Pondeli must move to the fortress city Vanzeld in the demon realm, seeing as undeads must live under the jurisdiction of the demons, plus Pondeli can make friends whilst living her new life. Hearing that she'll have to get back to work, Pondeli refuses to leave, but Beelzebub challenges Pondeli to a game, and if Pondeli loses, she must obey Beelzebub. Sadly, Pondeli easily destroys Beelzebub, but Azusa suddenly gets an idea, suggesting that Pondeli set up a gaming store in the demon realm. That way Pondeli can make money gaming, whilst resting when there are no customers, an idea that satisfies all parties. With several days passing, we see Pondeli in her new store within the demon realm, thanking Azusa for inspiring her to pursue her dreams. As Laika and Halkara battle each other in a card game, Pondeli says she specially created a game called Ket Keto. Azusa is amazed by Pondeli's entrepreneurial feats, distracted to see the Slime sisters indulging in the card game as well, but Azusa wonders why Fatla and Vanya aren't with Beelzebub. The girls state that Beelzebub is busy dealing with government stuff, something Azusa can't picture, but Fatla says Beelzebub is actually quite competent to have held the title of Minister of Agriculture for several years. Seeing Azusa curious, Fatla offers Azusa to visit Beelzebub while she's working, all immediately heading to the Department of Agriculture, all whilst Azusa conceals herself with a stealth spell. The Leviathan sisters ask Azusa to not get caught, all heading into a busy office that reminds Azusa of her past corporate job. But suddenly the girls spot Beelzebub commanding the room. Beelzebub flawlessly resolves issues one at a time, something that amazes Azusa. But out of nowhere, Beelzebub marches towards Vanya, pointing out how Vanya made a mistake on one of her jobs. Facing Fatla, Beelzebub asks how her slime daughters were, something that annoys Azusa, but the girls quickly rush to conceal Azusa's voice, prompting Beelzebub to declare she'll finish her work quickly and spend her free time with the Slime sisters. As the Leviathan sisters work through the day alongside Beelzebub, Azusa can't help but get bored and hungry, accidentally drawing Beelzebub to her location in the room. But once again, Fatla manages to cover for Azusa, instead mentioning how she bought new flowers for the room. Seeing as it's lunchtime, Vanya arrives with specially prepared box lunches, unveiling 4 lunch boxes for the gang, but Fatla quickly rushes to cover them up, realizing that it may give away Azusa's presence. Smirking, Beelzebub nonchalantly glares in Azusa's direction, pointing out how strange it is that there was a 4th lunchbox, choosing to tease Azusa as she prepares to give away the 4th lunchbox, ultimately making Azusa reveal herself to claim her lunch. That night, the entire gang visit Beelzebub, impressing the girls as Beelzebub's minister title isn't just for show, something that flusters Beelzebub hearing all the praise. Beelzebub chooses to give the girls some special delicacies as payment for all the praise, beginning to rant on about her massive mansion and how she gets so many gifts often, but this prompts the girls to ask if they can visit the mansion. Caught off guard, Beelzebub gets called out by Azusa for lying to impress her family, but Beelzebub snaps back, declaring that she'll invite them over. The next day, the girls stand before Beelzebub's massive mansion, all surprised by Beelzebub's vast wealth. But as the girls try calling out to Beelzebub to let them in, Flatort chooses to ring a massive bell attached to the home. Finally appearing, Beelzebub guides the girls past her front gate, only to show them around the place. First, the gang visits the dining hall, all served a dessert that is quite popular in the West Street, one that resembles tiramisu. Beelzebub says she'll serve the girls some tea to complement their meal, but the girls wonder why Beelzebub doesn't just ask her maid or butler, something Beelzebub struggles to explain. Seeing the Slime Sisters get antsy about exploring the place, Beelzebub agrees to continue the tour, visiting the kitchen, a bathhouse area, and golden toilet room. When Beelzebub shows the girls the kitchen and bathhouse again, Azusa calls Beelzebub out for showing them the same rooms, but Beelzebub tries asking the girls to leave. As the girls refuse to leave, Beelzebub ends up taking them to her bedroom, a room the girls point out is quite small, but Beelzebub says she prefers it that way. The girls wonder what is on the other 2 remaining floors of her mansion, prompting the slime girls to gleefully head upstairs to explore the remainder of the rooms, only to freeze in place upon discovering an abandoned room. With the other girls uncovering the web-filled rooms, Beelzebub admits that the mansion she has is too big for her, so she only uses the first floor. Beelzebub says she was originally born a commoner and is not used to such fruitful living, and when the Demon King appointed her as a minister, Beelzebub was given the mansion and didn't know what to do with such vast land. Beelzebub refused to hire maids as she wants to maintain the house herself. But Leica says not using the mansion at its fullest capacity would be a waste, declaring that she has a plan to speed up their cleaning process. Turning to face Flatort, Leica challenges Flatort to a cleaning battle, something that fires Flatort up as she declares she'll clean the 3rd floor, whilst Leica is in charge of cleaning the 2nd floor. As the Dragon Girls start their duel, the others wonder where the Slime Sisters are, freaking Beelzebub out when she hears that they're in the garden. Heading outside, the gang are horrified by the forest growing into their backyard, all agreeing to split up and search for the Slime Sisters. Beelzebub does warn the others that there may be plants that attack animals in the garden, freaking Azusa out as she demands the clumsy Halkara stay in the mansion. Searching all evening, Azusa begins to panic, but suddenly notices a boar flee past her, only to spot a strange creature burrowing towards her. Having spotted Azusa, the creature cries out that a witch has found it, fleeing for its life. With Beelzebub reporting that she's found the Slime Sisters, they all finally head inside, only to watch Rosalie try to mediate the Dragon Girls' argument over who won their duel. Rosalie announces that the duel is ultimately a draw, quickly flying away, all whilst the Slime Sisters apologize for running off into the forest, but at the same time we see the creature from earlier be revealed to be a little girl. Several days later, Azusa stops by Ino's new store, who gives Azusa tons of credit for being her mentor and allowing her to fulfill her role as a fellow witch. Seeing as how Kara has tagged along, she takes inspiration from Ino's potion sizes, promising to only reference and not steal the idea. Azusa is forced to step in and stop the girls from fighting, reminding Ino to give Azusa the Mandragora pill she had asked for, handing Azusa a bottle of fully mature Mandragora pills. Ino says most Mandragora pills are aged for 3 years, but fully aged ones are made over 10 years, a rare version of the pills that Ino is happy to give to Azusa. Ino cries that her dream is to make Mandragora pills that are 300 years old, surprising the girls as they hear that after 300 years, Mandragora pills evolve, learning to move and speak. Although the girls are skeptical at first, Azusa remembers back to the creature burrowing beneath her when she was in Beelzebub's garden. suddenly crying out that she may know where they can find one. Ino demands to know if she can see one in person, but Azusa says they'll need permission to visit Beelzebub's private land. Someone Ino is amazed Azusa has connection with. Rushing to close her store, Ino closes up shop for the day, only to fly away on her wyvern. Azusa wonders what Ino plans on doing with the 300-year-old Mandragora, freaking out when Halkara points out that the Mandragora needs to be crushed up into pills, alerting Azusa as she orders Flatort to wake up and fly after Ino. Having arrived at Beelzebub's home, Azusa asks Beelzebub to not attack Ino if she suddenly appears on her property, plus Azusa asks Beelzebub to protect the Mandragora in her garden, something that Beelzebub isn't too fond of. At that moment, a horde of voices can be heard outside, prompting the gang to check out the noise, only to notice a horde of witches have gathered. Speaking up, Ino utters that she's gathered all the witches in the land to help locate the 300-year-old Mandragora, even willing to break some laws if they can get their hands on the Mandragora. With Ino ordering the witches to storm Beelzebub's property, Beelzebub and Azusa order Ino to call off her operations. But seeing as Ino isn't listening, Beelzebub considering burning down her whole garden. With the witches on high alert searching around Beelzebub's garden, we see Azusa ordering Flatort and Halkara to help her search for the Mandragora first. But sadly, Halkara has already been caught in some vines. As a plant spews some chemicals onto Halkara, her clothes begin to melt, but luckily Azusa frees Halkara from her binds, only to begin healing Halkara's clothes. Putting her elven knowledge to the test, Halkara declares that the Mandragora hasn't passed their location yet, pointing out that thick trees have dense roots, making it hard for the Mandragora to travel through ground beneath the thick trees. Having narrowed down their search, we suddenly notice Ino had been secretly listening in on their conversation, cutting to a few minutes later where our trio stumbles onto a suspicious-looking clearing. Halkara says she senses something nearby, but suddenly Ino decides to reveal herself, declaring she'll use whatever underhand tactics she needs to obtain the 300-year-old Mandragora. Azusa cries that a plant that can speak and walk is no longer an object and is a life that should be treated equally, something that annoys Ino, as she suddenly calls for her witches to surround our trio. Ino orders for her witches to attack our trio, but seeing as they're low on time, Halkara suddenly gets an idea, crying out for the Mandragora to show herself and be adopted by Azusa. That way no other witch can harm it. Surprisingly, movement can be seen underground, something caused by the Mandragora that burrows past the other witches only to willingly leap into Azusa's arms, begging for help. Azusa warns the witches to back off unless they actually want to fight, showing off the Mandragora to be a sweet, innocent girl, asking if Ino and the others can really crush up the little girl. Ino admits that she thought the 300-year-old Mandragora would be more monstrous, ultimately convincing Ino and the witches to accept defeat, seeing as Azusa did technically find the Mandragora first. Out of nowhere, the Mandragora plucks one of the leaves from her head, giving it to Ino as she says she can always grow more, prompting Ino to promise to never hunt for the 300-year-old Mandragora again. Although Ino is ecstatic, Beelzebub suddenly appears, demanding that Ino pay her for storming her property and ruining her garden. That evening, Azusa praises Halkara for her smart thinking when searching for the Mandragora, but suddenly the Mandragora states she hates elves. Since elves pick plants, the Mandragora before them growls at Halkara, suddenly diving into Azusa's lap as it utters one day, whilst existing it suddenly gains sentience. Beelzebub appears with some water for the gang, offering to allow the Mandragora to remain in her garden. But the Mandragora says the garden is quite boring and lacks sunlight. Getting an idea, Azusa offers up her own home, stating that in the highlands there will be plenty of sunlight and room for the Mandragora to roam, something that excites the little girl. Leaving Beelzebub's home, Beelzebub wonders what the Mandragora's name is, surprised it doesn't have one. But the Mandragora refuses to accept a silly name. Azusa says since the Mandragora likes dirt, water, and sand, Azusa decides to call the girl Sandra moving forward, a name the girls all agree is quite fitting. As they ride Flatort home, Azusa asks that Sandra try to get along with everyone, especially since now she is part of their family. At home, the Slime Sisters introduce themselves to Sandra, receiving a shy greeting back from Sandra, something Azusa finds adorable seeing as Sandra is way older than the Slime Girls. When Laika calls the gang to eat dinner, they're all shocked to hear that Sandra doesn't need to eat, as plants only need water and sunlight to survive. Azusa asks what room Sandra would like to take, hearing that Sandra will sleep in the garden outside, a convenient place for everyone. With dinner over, Azusa scolds the Slime Sisters for leaving their vegetables untouched again, but suddenly Sandra cries that vegetables served today are yucky, offering to harvest some delicious-tasting carrots and cabbage. Sandra gets to work, laying the groundwork for a clean vegetable patch, only to show off her hard work a few weeks later, amazing Azusa. Choosing to hold a carrot and cabbage party, the girls are all pumped to try the new vegetables, but the Slime Sisters are clearly against a meatless meal. Sandra mentions how the vegetables were grown with love, something that ultimately convinces the Slime Sisters to give the vegetables a taste, surprising the girls as the meal is quite sweet. For dessert, the gang are served some carrot-infused pound cake, something that makes Azusa thank Sandra personally, as she's glad to have added a new family member to their roster. Spending time with the Slime Sisters, Sandra is taught how to read and write, something Azusa can't help but adore. Seeing as she needs to do some chores, Azusa leaves the girls to play only to head outside, starting by adding her special detergent to the dirty, wet clothes. Making use of some wind magic, Azusa manages to hang the wet clothes to dry, suddenly noticing Shalsha nearby. Shalsha says Falfa and Sandra are in need of more exposure to what normal kids do, suggesting that Azusa enroll them into a school to help speed up their learning of the world. Heading into VIDZ, we see the three girls have enrolled into Sinale Elementary Academy, all asked to introduce themselves whilst Azusa looks over them with her invisibility spell. Kicking off the class, the teacher writes a question on a chalkboard, but instantly the Slime Sisters solve the problem. When the teacher adds a university-level question, Falfa is seen easily solving the question, amazing everyone. Heading onto the school playground, the girls play with the other kids, but when Shalsha tosses a ball to another kid, her sheer strength frightens their peers, unable to control her own strength. When a boy tries calling Shalsha out for being lucky, Shalsha proves the boy wrong by tossing another high-powered throw at him, scaring his friends as they reason they should target someone weaker. Having locked on to Sandra, the boys lob the ball at her, but barely reacting fast enough, Sandra burrows underground, something that excites the other kids as they want to do the same thing. Seeing as her daughters are doing fine, Azusa heads over to tell Yufufu about the girls enrolling into school, noting how the Slime Sisters ended up graduating on her first day, something that makes sense since they're overqualified for elementary school. As for Sandra, Azusa says Sandra will be remaining at school, although she is quite shy. Having prepared some mushroom creamy pasta for Azusa, the girls sit down for a meal, exciting Azusa as Yufufu is feeding her like any mother would. Interestingly enough, the gnome mushrooms taste familiar to Azusa, suddenly shrinking in size. Yufufu pretends it was an accident, suddenly rushing over to snuggle with Azusa as she asks Azusa to play the part of her daughter, something Azusa doesn't mind, but Yufufu's hugs have gotten her soaking wet. Seeing as Yufufu wants to nurture others so badly, Azusa introduces Sandra to Yufufu, someone Yufufu immediately takes a liking to seeing how adorable Sandra is. Surprisingly, Sandra herself loves hugging Yufufu since Sandra is a plant that absorbs Yufufu's moisture. As Yufufu gets started on making dinner, Azusa plays with Sandra, both beginning to roleplay, with Azusa acting as a town shoemaker and Sandra as the town cedar tree. Although Azusa is confused, she plays along, pretending to be a visitor to Sandra's cedar tree, but realizes trees don't talk. As the girls wrap up their roleplay, we see Azusa enjoying a bath with Yufufu, sad to hear that Sandra can't bathe with them, seeing as her plant roots may rot. Azusa takes in the pleasures of being spoiled by Yufufu, only to end the night with bedtime stories as the three share a bed. The next day, the trio head into town, all noting how bustling the town seems. Seeing as Sandra is still scared of witches after they tried hunting for her, Yufufu reassures Sandra that she'll protect her, something that makes Sandra blush. As Azusa teases Sandra for turning red, the girls head into a clothing store, immediately attracting the attention of a worker as they adore Azusa and Sandra. As the worker offers to dress Yufufu's daughters, they start off by dragging Sandra away, leaving Yufufu to dress up Azusa. Having rotated through all the possible styles, they end up settling on a few outfits that make the girls look like princesses. Seeing as there is quite a lot of luggage, the girls head into an alley, only for Yufufu to ask the girls to remain in place, suddenly disappearing as she plans on dropping off their purchases at home. Having been left alone, two men suddenly rush Azusa and Sandra, easily bagging both girls. Tossed into a carriage, the men are revealed to be kidnappers who plan to hold the girls for ransom money, but this clearly terrifies Sandra. Traveling through a forest and into the mountains by carriage, the girls are brought to the men's hideout, but before they can enter, Azusa declares she'll have to punish the crooks. Easily breaking free from her binds, Azusa starts off by knocking out her captives with 2 kicks, only to free Sandra as well. Choosing to enter the men's hideout, Azusa kicks down the door, bursting towards the 3 station men, only to dispatch them as well. As Azusa turns to check on Sandra, she suddenly realizes another man is holding her captive, demanding Azusa give herself up. With no other choice, Azusa prepares to stand down, but suddenly a powerful water beam sends the man flying into the nearby wall, revealed to be Yufufu, who has returned to rescue her daughters. Embracing the girls with a hug, we cut to that evening where the kidnappers have all been handed over to the town's guards, only for the girls to stroll through town. As they reflect on their day, Azusa is surprised their harrowing experience made her grow closer to Sandra, but Yufufu is thankful to Azusa for allowing her to take care of the children she always dreamed of having, all agreeing to do it again in the future. Having returned home, Azusa is seen back in her adult body, a little annoyed that Laika and Flatort were fighting over which dress suited her mini-self better. Plus how Kara and Rosalie tried convincing Azusa to stay miniature for a little while longer. Azusa says she is grateful for Ino's medicine as it reverted her back to normal, heading downstairs only to watch Sandra show off the words she learned how to write. Surprisingly, Sandra announces that she doesn't want to stay in school, seeing as she wants to spend more time around with the others at home. Several days later, we follow Laika doing the laundry, all whilst reflecting on her first time meeting Azusa. Inside the house, the girls admire their fruitful harvest, but Sandra takes note of the mild itch mushroom. Halkara proudly states that the mild itch mushroom gives the eater a tickly feeling, but Azusa orders Halkara to get rid of them. Spotting the slime sisters hiding, Azusa pretends to ask where the sisters are, only to play along when the girls jump out and scare her. At that moment, someone visits their home, cutting to later that day, where Fighty and Laika are sparring, something that Flatort loves to watch, whereas Sandra is disgusted at their barbaric nature. Azusa reveals that Fighty is training since she will be entering into a martial arts tournament in the Haint province for 30 million gold. As Laika and Fighty match each other's strengths, Fighty declares she'll show off her secret technique, only to throw out several low kicks. Although Azusa considers the technique quite boring, it manages to catch Laika off guard, forcing her to leap back only to unleash her fire breath. Panicking, the girls ask if Fighty is hurt, but seeing as she is still ablaze, Fighty begins to roll on the ground to quench the fire, but accidentally rolls off the nearby hill. Having reverted into her slime form, they hold a meeting inside, realizing that this scenario is similar to when Falfa reverted into her slime form. Seeing as Fighty can't transform back, but can still talk, the girls wonder what Fighty will do about her tournament in 5 days. But Fighty says she'll just have to attend in her slime form. Feeling bad for causing trouble, Laika offers to join the tournament as Laika the Slime Mancer and win the prize alongside Fighty. With several days passing, we see Azusa and Flatort sitting in the stands, munching on some fried chicken as they await Laika and Fighty's match. Panning out, we see Laika and Fighty matched up for the third match of the tournament, facing Gondada, who immediately underestimates our duo. As the match starts, Laika calls for Fighty to attack, prompting Fighty to surround Gondada and begin tripping him with her secret technique. In mere moments, Laika is announced as the winner, cutting to later that day, where the girls celebrate Laika and Fighty making it past the preliminary rounds. Azusa is surprised at how close Laika and Fighty have gotten, even choosing to talk for Fighty, as Fighty seems to be conserving her energy for her matches tomorrow. As the duo head to bed, Azusa notices Flatort seemingly zoning out, but when Azusa checks on Flatort, she says it's nothing. The next day, Laika and Fighty make it to the final round with the help of Fighty's secret technique, only to be matched up against Domremy, the Armored Knight. Domremy declares that their armor will stop Fighty from tripping them, but as the duel begins, we see Laika sending Fighty to attack. Trying to trip Domremy, Fighty fails to make the knight budge, dancing around it only to return to Laika. As the crowd cheers for Domremy, Azusa wonders what the duo will do, but as Laika sends out Fighty once more, we watch as Fighty begins to wrap around Domremy. Choosing to infiltrate the knight's armor, Fighty ends up choking the knight from within, immediately ending the duel in their favor, something Azusa notes was quite cheap. Outside the tournament, Fighty celebrates winning the cash prize, excited to splurge on herself for winning. As Fighty departs, Azusa once again notices Flatort staring off into the distance, only to hear that Flatort's home is nearby. Setting off that afternoon, Azusa accompanies Flatort as they fly towards her homeland, fearing that she'll be mocked by her kind for submitting to another. Flatort does reassure Azusa that she doesn't regret taking Azusa as her master, but is more annoyed seeing Laika tagging along, having wanted to spend more time with Azusa. As the trio head into the mountains, Azusa notes the horrifically cold weather, something Flatort thrives in. Heading to her snowy homeland, we see Flatort reunite with her parents, Kainresk and Armishtan, only for Azusa to see how weird and quirky Flatort's parents are. When Flatort introduces Azusa to her parents, Kainresk and Armishtan both recognize Azusa to be the Witch of the Highlands, only to ask if Azusa would like to duel them later. Moving on, Flatort introduces Laika, but seeing as there is a red dragon before them, they glare at their natural sworn enemy, asking if Laika herself would like to battle as well. Seeing as the town is curious as to how strong Azusa is, Azusa agrees to beat them into submission to ensure no one visits her home and challenges her, starting off by pounding a blue dragon into a nearby mountain. Up next, Kainresk asks to face off against Azusa, but not long after transforming, Kainresk is defeated. Stepping up, Armishtan tries blasting Azusa with his ice breath, but retaliating with a fire spell, Azusa wipes the floor with Kainresk only to begin beating up other challengers. Seeing her master at work, Laika takes the chance to ask for a duel herself, wanting to show off how much she's grown since they first met. With Azusa gladly accepting, Laika starts by transforming only to blast a fireball at Azusa, forcing her into the air. Following up with a swipe, Azusa is forced to dodge only to continue flying through the air as she dances around Laika's fire beams. Seeing as she is grateful to Laika for being her first family member in this new world, Azusa chooses to end their duel with an ice spell, cutting to the next morning where Flatort is seen flying everyone home. Laika is seen embarrassed for losing so badly to Azusa, but Azusa says there is nothing shameful about giving her all at something and failing, especially since she now has room to grow. With Flatort jealous at all the attention Laika is getting, the girls stop at a hot spring later that night, allowing the Dragon Girls to brawl it out with some ping pong, all whilst Azusa watches. Back at the guild, Natalie freaks Azusa out when she asks Azusa to get married, but clarifies things by handing Azusa a poster that offers to hold wedding ceremonies at Tzine, a village with a temple containing the spirit Miss Janny resides. Natalie says Tzine is a small village that has been struggling recently with its declining population, and Natalie herself has been tasked with advertising the place to others, begging Azusa herself to simply visit for her sake. Seeing as a friend is in need of help, Azusa agrees to drop in for a bit, instructed by Natalie to bring Halkara and Flatort along, but Azusa is annoyed hearing that Natalie herself will be joining them. As Flatort soars through the skies with the girls on their back, our trio agree that they refuse to date or marry anyone, but Natalie butts in stating that she'll need Azusa to draw in the attention of the men at the party. Then Halkara and Flatort need to work on flirting and exchanging contact info with people they see fit. The girls wonder if everything is really for Natalie's sake, but having arrived into Zine's shopping district, the girls immediately note the desolate-looking district. Natalie asks the girls to remain positive, all heading to the party venue, only to be greeted by some older-looking folks, completely shattering Natalie's fantasies. Moving on to some sightseeing, the girls hit up the Miss Janie Temple, home to the Pine Spirit Miss Janie, who blesses all marriages. Flatort admits that the temple is quite well kept, even though the village seems abandoned. But seeing Natalie depressed, Azusa tries cheering up the mood. Interestingly enough, Azusa spots a girl sitting next to the statue, introduced as Miss Janie the Pine Spirit, and is someone that can't be seen by normal humans. Miss Janie says her main job is to mediate marriages, but seeing as less people are visiting, her business is falling apart. With Halkara and Natalie unable to see who Azusa is talking to, Flatort manages to detect Miss Janie, choosing to wrestle her into submission only for Miss Janie to agree to show herself to the others. Sitting down in a private room, Natalie takes the chance to ask for a handsome, rich, and smart man. But Miss Janie sadly says such a specimen doesn't exist, upsetting Natalie as Miss Janie can only mediate marriages, not create them. Miss Janie asks Natalie to attend the matchmaking party in town, but sadly the girls utter they already had a look around, and it seems only older men are attending. Seeing as there is nothing left, Natalie states they'll be leaving, but Miss Janie begs Azusa to help her. Miss Janie requests that one of the girls get married and offer up a prayer along with some money to help her business stay afloat, but this pisses Natalie off as there is clearly no benefit to helping the greedy spirit. Azusa says none of them want to get married, but Miss Janie offers up alternative plans that don't force the girls into getting married. Cutting to later that day, where Miss Janie tells the Slime Sisters about holding a ceremony to ensure their sibling bond will stay strong forever. The Slime Sisters are immediately hooked on the idea, but they begin to argue who gets to wear the pretty dress during the ceremony, forcing Miss Janie to offer an alternative where the Slime Sisters wear suits for the first half of the ceremony, only for both to change into the lovely dresses. With Azusa asking for anything else they'll need, Miss Janie asks who will be attending such a ceremony, cutting over to Beelzebub, who demands to be invited to the ceremony. Not too long after, we see the big day has arrived, and Azusa herself is responsible for welcoming the guest as the receptionist. Off to the side, Rosalie notices Ino selling her new Energy Forest drink to the other guest, annoying Halkara as she has got new competition. Hearing Ino dissing her product, Halkara immediately confronts Ino, both beginning to slander each other's products. As time passes by, Azusa welcomes Yufufu, who warmly greets everyone, followed by Beelzebub, who shows off her new dress along with Pakura, offering to marry Azusa herself. Next, Feidi makes it her mission to jog all the way to their location. Moving on to Pondeli, who reports her game store is doing great, only for Natalie to arrive as the final guest, declaring that she'll catch the bouquet no matter what. Before the ceremony begins, both Shalsha and Falfa show off their tuxedos to Azusa, earning some warm praise from Azusa. As the ceremony begins, we see everyone Azusa has befriended gather for the momentous day, all warmly welcoming the Slime Sisters as they adorably enter the room, holding hands. With cheers of joy and applause from the crowd, the sisters head towards the stage where Miss Janie personally officiates and blesses the ceremony, declaring that the souls of the two sisters will forever be intertwined. To top things off, Miss Janie hands the sisters rings to certify their forever-lasting bond. But before things wrap up, Azusa is escorted out back by Miss Janie. Given the important role of reintroducing the sisters in their dresses, Azusa proudly walks the girls back down the aisle and towards the stage, once again showered by a round of applause, only for Miss Janny to ask the sisters to share any closing remarks. Falfa starts by thanking Shalsha for being her big sister, and it was due to her attacking Azusa that fateful day that they've lived a more fulfilling life, something that the crowd finds endearing. Next, Shalsha thanks Falfa for always caring for her, adding that Azusa herself should get tons of credit for changing the lives of many, all embracing each other as the crowd roars with excitement. Seeing as the ceremony is finished, the Slime Sisters thank Azusa with a kiss on her cheek each, cutting to later that evening where Azusa and the Slime Sisters personally thank Miss Janny for an amazing memory they'll forever treasure. Back home, the Slime Sisters get to work planting a pine tree Miss Janny had gifted them, but within 3 days the pine sapling became a towering pine tree. Azusa is annoyed that it's blocking their view. Plus, Sandra says the tree is sucking up all her nutrients. But out of nowhere, a small tree house can be seen amongst the pine tree branches, revealed to be Miss Janny herself. Azusa hears that Miss Janty is opening a separate branch for her Miss Janny temple in the Highlands. But luckily, Azusa is able to convince Miss Janny to move her operations far away from her home. Cutting to a few days later, where Azusa discovers the new temple has been opened in the Flata village. At home, Laika mentions how a hot spring will counteract the cold weather, but Flatort calls out Laika for being weak, declaring that they should visit the ocean instead. Intrigued by Flatort's idea, the girls utter that they want to search for sea creatures in the ocean and that they don't mind visiting any nearby beaches, and seeing as the southern sea should be quite warm, they all agree to head out immediately. Arriving in a more toasty terrain, the girls admire the gorgeous sea before them, prompting the slime girls to begin making sand castles whilst Rosalie heads to search for any buried treasures near a cliff. Sandra begins taking in the warm sun, all whilst Flatort and Halkara rush to embrace the sea. But out of nowhere, they feel a tingling sensation all throughout their bodies. Returning to shore, Halkara and Flatort cry that they've been stung, pointing out the hundreds of jellyfish that reside in the sea. With the girls forced to admire the sea from a distance, we see how Kara and Flatort have recovered with some medicine, but the girls are disappointed they won't be able to swim alongside the sea creatures within the ocean. Off to the side, the girls notice someone painting by the ocean, prompting Azusa and Halkara to greet Kirillina, asking to see what she is painting. Strangely enough, Kirillina's painting is quite morbid looking, plus most of her other works are quite grim and hard to look at. Kirillina mentions how she is a jellyfish spirit and is struggling to sell her paintings, but Azusa wonders if Kirillina could communicate with the jellyfish in the water and ask them to leave. Sadly, Kirillina says jellyfish float aimlessly and allows the current to take them wherever. Therefore, her telepathy with the other jellyfish are useless. Kirillina does mention she can make the jellyfish glow, but when the girls gather around for the spectacle, Kirillina admits she forgot how to do it. Just then, Kirillina mentions how she can ask the ocean spirit to move the waves to escort the jellyfish elsewhere, but she states she'll need something in return, asking the girls if she can paint them. First things first, Kirillina heads to talk with the ocean spirit, forcing the girls to wait for 30 minutes as Kirillina ends up spending time with the waterfall spirit. Luckily, Kirillina keeps up her end of the deal, calling for the ocean spirit to work its magic as the jellyfish in the sea are suddenly swept away, allowing the girls to finally embrace the ocean. As the girls play in the ocean and compete against one another, Kirillina takes the chance to capture the moment with her painting, cutting to later that evening where the girls sit on the sand watching the sunset, only to hear that Kirillina will finish up her painting of them soon and plans to hang it up in her upcoming exhibition. Excited to see the final product, the girls ask to attend the exhibition, only to be handed tickets and welcome to invite others that want to come along as well. Before the sun fully sets, Kirillina remembers how to make the jellyfish glow, heading over to the ocean only to telepathically order them to light up the sea. With the girls all dazzled by the amazing light show, we cut to a few days later where they visit the exhibition held on a separate island, all waiting outside Kirillina's home. Right on cue, Beelzebub and the demon girls arrive alongside Fighty, all collectively heading inside excited to see what treats are in store. Creepily, The Slime sisters notice a disturbing-looking painting of them hung up, but suddenly Halkera's voice can be heard, pointing out how a ghost can be seen in a painting of hers. Looking closer, Azusa realizes that Rosalie is the ghost in Halkera's painting. As for the Dragon Girls and Sandra themselves, they all agree that the paintings aren't what they expected. Kirillina mentions how, as jellyfish, she can see the world differently since they're transparent, but the paintings seem to have forced Laika and Pecora to reflect on their life, making Azusa ask Kirillina why she paints such gloomy paintings. Seeing as Kirillina's art style mainly comprises of highlighting the darkness in life, Azusa suddenly notices Beelzebub fixated on a painting of some pyramids. A location Kirillina reveals is a forest at the foot of the West Nastamria Mountains. Beelzebub reveals that the location is the grave of the ruler of a legendary ancient civilization, the kingdom of Thursa, and apparently thrived 5,000 years ago. It is said that explorers had set out for the location, but none have returned. And seeing as evil spirits may reside in ancient civilizations, it is the duty of the demons to inspect and classify them. Azusa is clearly freaked out hearing that there may be evil spirits that exist, but when Beelzebub asks if Azusa could assist with their explorations, Azusa immediately refuses. Beelzebub says Azusa's presence will ensure they're safe, plus none of the other girls can go seeing as they may get cursed. But Rosalie speaks up, offering to tag along seeing as she is a ghost and they can't get cursed. Arriving in the West Nastamria Mountains in the Lannis Forest, we see that Pecora and Fighty are joining their adventures. But out of nowhere, a strange monster appears from the bushes. Revealed to be a massive serpent, it rushes towards the girls, but with a wave of her hand, Pecora dispatches the attacking creature. Up next, a massive multi-headed monster attacks the gang. But wanting to show off her improved fighting style, Fighty combos the creature with multiple low kicks, ultimately slaying and collecting the crystal it dropped. Rosalie feels bad for not being more useful to the gang, but nonetheless they all continue through the misty forest, but Pecora senses something off about their location. When Beelzebub reports that they should be at the entrance, the girls wonder if a barrier is concealing the location they're visiting, but Pecora reassures the gang they'll be fine. Stepping up, Pecora puts her demonic powers to work, instantly dismantling the barrier concealing the pyramids Kirillina had painted, but it seems no one is present. The girls decide to head closer to inspect the pyramids, but a sudden voice orders for the girls to turn back and leave, freaking Azusa out. Seeing as the voices are fellow spirits, Rosalie manages to convince the evil spirits to reveal themselves, having promised to not rob anything from their grave. In mere moments, hundreds of spirits unsheath their cloak, having been surrounding the gang all along. The head maid and minister of the kingdom, Thursa, Nana introduces herself, uttering that 5,000 years ago, an epidemic ended up wiping out their kingdom, and the evil spirits before them are the kingdom's citizens who refuse to pass on. As the girls are escorted into one of the pyramids, Nana says that the barrier concealing their kingdom is to protect their kingdom from outsiders, but worst of all, their ruler is a shut-in. Apparently, the ruler had closed herself away from the public for 2,000 years, and hence can't establish any relations with the demons. The ruler was annoyed they couldn't find any friends and simply resorted to living in her own grave for all of eternity, even scaring away people that got close to her magic. Pecora reasons that they could befriend a ruler if they chat to her, all heading to visit the ruler's grave, all relying on Rosalie to be their trump card. Seeing no way of turning back now, Azusa declares they'll see their mission through till the very end, crying that they'll befriend this shut-in ruler no matter what. With the massive gates to the tomb opening, Fighty gets excited to see what buried treasures they'll unravel, all whilst Pecora takes the chance to cling close to Azusa. Rosalie does worry that her commoner status will affect their interactions with the tomb's ruler, but Pecora says that status doesn't matter when making friends. Plus, Rosalie is the only other spirit that could possibly befriend the ruler that has become an evil spirit. With Rosalie now fired up, a golem suddenly emerges from the floor, throwing out a punch towards Rosalie, but Rosalie easily evades since she is a ghost. Azusa swiftly dispatches the golem, but a swarm of golems now appear, trapping in our gang. Luckily, the girls nonchalantly brandish their fighting styles, all taking down their respective golems. But the girls are curious as to who created the golems with magic. Rosalie points out a mysterious loaf of bread placed on the floor in front of them, and seeing as it's quite warm, the girls reasons they should venture deeper and play by the tomb's rules. Making it to floor 12, the girls run into some mommies, charging right through the swarm, but they do take chances to catch their breaths. With more time passing, the girls reach floor 33, but Fighty takes charge rushing towards some more bread, only to be caught in a trap. Luckily, there are no issues as the girls move on to floor 57, where Azusa nearly falls to her death, but Beelzebub rescues her, all once again taking a break, all annoyed at how there are no indicators of when they'll reach the ruler. Rosalie says she has an idea, guiding the gang through a particular path, only to reveal that the ruler may be yearning to make contact with other fellow spirits since Rosalie's body is being pulled towards her. At that moment, a three-headed monster intercepts the gang, but Azusa notices something strange about the creature's movement. As Azusa approaches and flicks the creature, it instantly disperses into specks of dust, something Azusa deduces is the ruler's doing, and it seems to be a game they created. Azusa also points out the incomplete corridor in front of them, but before the girls venture towards the bugged-out area, they all notice Fighty stuck inside a nearby wall. Rosalie immediately recognizes the location to be the actual entrance towards the ruler, all gleefully passing through the wall, as well only to emerge into a darkened room. Passing through a stack of archives, the gang stumble onto the ruler, hammering away at her keyboard, seemingly fixated on adding traps to the dungeon. As a few minutes pass, the ruler wraps up her typing, only to turn to face the girls, introducing herself as Mium, the ruler of Thursa. Mium is annoyed that the girls made it through all of her traps, but Azusa is more weirded out seeing Mium has a similar dialect from her previous world. Pakora notices that Mium has a physical body, hearing the Mium had intentionally prepared one for her spirit to possess, but Mium takes an interest in Rosalie asking what brings her here. Rosalie cries that Nana had asked for their help to get Mium re-enter the outside world, but Mium gets annoyed hearing Nana's name, crying out that Nana doesn't get her jokes and isn't fun to hang around. Pakora does empathize with Mium seeing as they're both rulers, but Rosalie says Mium's citizens all miss her and want to see her. Mium says since the girls finished her dungeon, she does have a reason to stop, but Mium fears that she won't have any friends to hang out with once she leaves, prompting Rosalie to reach out a helping hand, uttering that she too was alone until she met her current family, and this time Rosalie can help a fellow spirit by being Mium's friend. Speechless, Mium immediately accepts Rosalie's proposal, but straight away the girls begin bickering. With the girls managing to get Mium to leave her shut in life, Pakora and Mium enter into diplomatic relations, something Nana thanks the girls for helping make happen. Azusa advises Nana to play along with Mium's jokes from time to time, but Nana says she can't since Mium is horrible at making jokes, something Rosalie offers to help Mium perfect. With some days passing by, we see Halkara showing off a package to Azusa, hearing that it's a gift for Natalie, and it's because Halkara chose Apache as her tax recipient. Halkara says she has to pay a decent amount of tax since she owns a business, but in exchange Halkara occasionally gets gifts, with it being some high-quality fertilizer for Sandra this time. Right on cue, Sandra enters the home, shivering from the cold weather, but immediately gets drawn to the fertilizer Halkara received. Excited to indulge in the gift, the girls all head outside, prompting Sandra to bury her feet in the ground, only for Halkara to pour the fertilizer onto Sandra's head. Sandra cries that the meal is delicious, but strangely enough, Sandra's features and assets begin to mature at a rapid rate. At home, the other girls are mortified to see Sandra so mature, but Halkara apologizes, seeing as the fertilizer was meant to be diluted 20-fold before applying to plants. Seeing no solution to revert Sandra back, Sandra is given a change of clothes, and more surprisingly Sandra's brain has matured, easily being able to recite the textbook the Slime Sisters had assigned to her. Azusa gets a little annoyed at how mature and demanding Sandra is behaving, all agreeing to head into town as Sandra wants to pick out some things to buy. With Sandra skipping through town alongside Halkara, Azusa and Flatort tails the girls from afar, all watching as Sandra enters a clothing store, only to pick out some revealing summer clothes. Azusa immediately forbids such an outfit, using her motherly authority to sway Sandra to pick out a different outfit. But even still, Sandra's aura draws in several gazes from the townsfolk. Out of nowhere, two men try hitting on Sandra and Halkara, but before Azusa can step in, Sandra shuts down the men, crying out that the men aren't her type. From afar, Azusa says she is proud of Sandra for not settling for despicable-looking men, but Sandra says she still plans on finding a partner now that she's more mature. Azusa yells that Sandra isn't allowed to date anyone, but when Sandra shows off a 400-year-old tree she is interested in, Azusa reasons this makes sense. Sandra takes the chance to thank Azusa for always looking after her, handing Azusa a bouquet of flowers to show her appreciation, something that earns Sandra a warm hug from Azusa. As the gang head home, they awaken the next day to see Sandra back in her usual self, all reasoning that Sandra should only consume the high-quality fertilizer on special occasions.